Colorado. It is Friday, May 17th, 2024. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and sometimes a little crazy. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole morning of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab that coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. It is going to be an absolutely fire show today. We are going to get into the Trump trials. Michael Cohen on the stand yesterday in a contentious cross-examination with Trump's lawyers. We'll give you the details on that. The Biden tapes. Congress wants to get a hold of the recordings between the Department of Justice, her, and Joe Biden, but Garland stepping in and the White House claiming executive privilege. We'll give you the details about that. In the 7 o'clock hour, Lauren Boebert joins us. She was with President Trump yesterday in a Manhattan court. What was it like? How's the president doing? What did she think of the cross-examination of Michael Cohen? We'll hear all of that from Lauren Boebert in the 7 o'clock hour. Jared Polis signed some gun bills. What does this mean for you? You're going to have to probably change maybe some ways you store your guns. We'll get into that in the 8 o'clock hour. And then in the 9 o'clock hour, endorsed by the Colorado Republican Party, Ron Hanks of Congressional District 3 is going to be joining us to talk about his campaign as well. So an absolutely jam-packed show. You're not going to want to miss any part of it. Let's check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning, Jeff and Bill. 50 and sunny in Denver. Expecting highs in the low 80s today. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
Coming back from Arizona, we live in Fort Collins. Just terrible to see such a terrible crash and all the traffic that it caused.
Definitely horrific accident for sure.
I-70 is open again after a deadly crash involving a tanker truck shut down the interstate near Morrison Thursday. The driver of the vehicle that crashed into the truck died. The truck driver was taken to the hospital. DPD has announced that they are no longer pulling over drivers for minor traffic offenses. This includes infractions such as expired tags, driving with a headlight out, or anything else that doesn't pose an immediate threat to public safety. The goal of the new policy, they say, is to prioritize enforcement of safety-related traffic offenses and improve public relations by loosening up on strict enforcement of low-level offenses. The policy went into effect on May 1st. Jeremy Rocha told jurors on Thursday he was trying to defend himself when he fired the shots that killed 37-year-old firefighter John Jaros in June 2 years ago. Rocha said he was street racing in Aurora, and Jaros began chasing him and later pointed a gun at him. So he shot in self-defense. He said he was scared for his life. Jaros' wife and 3 daughters were in the truck at the time of the shooting. Stephen Long was charged in a road rage homicide on I-25 that happened a year ago. Thursday, family and advocates delivered more than 500 letters to Denver DA Beth McCann's office, urging her not to prosecute him for murder. Long is charged with first-degree murder in the death of Damon Lucas during what police call a road rage shooting. Brothers Damon and Blake Lucas both died in the incident, but the charge in Blake's death was dropped. House Speaker Mike Johnson is accusing the Biden administration of brazenly holding congressionally mandated aid. Biden said he's pausing one shipment of bombs to Israel due to concerns over a full-scale military operation in Rafah. The House will vote on a bill today to prevent the president from withholding weapons for Israel. Israeli diplomat Michael Cohen.
They're trying to walk back in various ways, the suspension of arms, rushing $1 billion worth of arms to us, saying that the artillery shells, they're going to give us the artillery shells, but they can't be used in Rafah. There's going to be a certain artillery of the shells that can be marked for use elsewhere in Gaza or up north, but not in Rafah. It's getting to be levels of absurdity.
Former President Trump will be attending his youngest son's high school graduation today. Barron Trump is getting his diploma from Oxbridge Academy in Palm Beach, Florida. Officials in Houston are confirming 4 deaths from severe weather. More than 1 million people are without power as power lines and trees were knocked down across the city. The world's top-ranked golfer, Scottie Scheffler is no longer being detained by Louisville police, and the second round of the PGA Championship is delayed following a fatal traffic accident outside the golf club. Scheffler was not involved in the accident, but was placed in handcuffs by a police officer after he drove past while trying to enter Valhalla Golf Club. Police say a shuttle bus struck and killed a pedestrian trying to cross a road outside the club a few hours ago. 48 in Greenwood Village, 45 in Boulder, and 50 in Denver. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com. The Timberwolves were backed against a corner, and they responded. Minnesota crushes the Nuggets 115-70 in Game 6 last night. Game 7 in Denver Sunday, Western Conference semifinals. The Avalanche play host to the Stars tonight at Ball Arena in Game 6. If they win, they force a Game 7 in Dallas in the Stanley Cup Western Conference semifinals. The Rockies go for 8 straight tonight in San Fran. Ryan Feltner against lefty Kyle Harrison. TGIF, Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710, KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast, quite warm on this Friday. We're going to see temperatures soar all the way to the mid to upper 80s. Lows tonight near 50. Highs will be a little cooler, but staying in the 70s Saturday, upper 70s and low 80s Sunday. For Saturday and Sunday, both days could bring a few afternoon and evening thunderstorms. A better chance that we'll see some showers and thunderstorms, and temperatures are going to trend cooler heading into Monday and into the day on Tuesday. I'm meteorologist Don Day on the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Lots of fireworks yesterday on the Trump trial as Michael Cohen took the stand for the second day, and it's not done yet. He was being cross-examined by Trump's attorneys, and it even left old Anderson Cooper a little stunned. Here's Anderson Cooper on CNN yesterday.
The last 20 minutes of court today, right before the lunch break, it was incredible. I mean, it was... Ellie Honig on my program last night had talked about, on a cross-examination, lawyers want to kind of put the witness in build a box around the witness and then slam it shut. That's what Todd Blanche did to Michael Cohen. I mean, the story, the Todd Blanche just methodically went through this sequence of events of this phone conversation that alleged that Michael Cohen had testified to previously, that he had this consequential phone conversation with Donald Trump. It was a 90-second phone conversation. I believe it was October 24th, was the date that was testified to in around 8 p.m. or so at night. But Todd Blanche on his cross-examination today looked at the transcript of text messages that Michael Cohen had received and sent before that time frame. And there had been this series, I guess, of crank calls that Michael Cohen had received. It turned out to be from some 14-year-old. There was an exchange of messages between the alleged 14-year-old and Michael Cohen. And then Michael Cohen texts Keith Schiller at like 7:50 something or 7:48 p.m., saying, hey, I've got some dope has been harassing me. I got the person's phone number. Who can I talk to? Keith Schiller texts him back saying, call me, and Michael Cohen calls Keith Schiller. This is the conversation that previously Michael Cohen had said he was calling to speak to Donald Trump to tell him that he was going ahead with the Stormy Daniels arrangement and that Trump approved it, which was a crucial to Michael Cohen's whole raison d'etre for being on the stand. He's the only person testifying to direct involvement by Donald Trump in the Stormy Daniels payments. But according to suddenly now Michael Cohen's refreshed memory, he now says, oh, it was a call about this 14-year-old making crank phone calls to me, but also about the moving ahead on Stormy Daniels. Todd Blanche was incredulous, his voice cracking, his voice raising up, moving around the courtroom, speaking, saying that what the jury doesn't want to hear, him guessing, it wants to hear facts. It was an extraordinary cross-examination by Todd Blanche. And, Michael Cohen's, throughout the day, Michael Cohen, when he found himself in a corner, he does have a pattern of suddenly not understanding the question that's being asked, or seemingly kind of, one could say buying time to try to figure out how he wants to answer. But he definitely suddenly starts to, have Todd Blanche repeat questions and say, I don't quite understand what you mean. I'm confused by the question. But this time, Michael Cohen was cornered in what appeared to be a lie, I think, to many in the room, and had to adjust suddenly his memory that he had just testified to on Tuesday.
So a few things about that, Bill. First, I've never heard Anderson Cooper stumble through something like that in my life before. Yeah. He really is trying to wrap his brain around what just happened. And the fact that testimony left Anderson Cooper relatively speechless was in itself something to note. Can we talk about how a 14-year-old got the cell phone number of Michael Cohen?
Yeah. How does that happen? That's a good question.
And then has the wherewithal to prank?
Yeah.
Brother, when I was 14, we would prank like pizza joints.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Or 7-Elevens by calling them and then placing them together.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So they're talking back together.
And so they're talking back and forth. Like, no, you called me. No, you called me. What do you want? I don't know what you call.
Oh, that's funny.
But the idea that an 8th grader got the wherewithal to prank Michael Cohen.
Yeah. And that he's so mad about it that he's like, that's the funny part. Just can't block the number or nothing. Well.
So
that was an interesting twist. That was a really unexpected twist, and it's significant. It is.
It is, because that was a significant portion of the timeline that this was this call that took place. And here's the New York Times even reporting on it. In a startling moment, Mr. Blanche on the attack, accusing Mr. Cohen of lying about a brief phone call on October 24th, 2016, in which Mr. Cohen had previously said was to update Mr. Trump about the $130,000 he was going to pay Miss Daniels. Mr. Blanche, however, suggested Mr. Cohen was instead talking to a Trump bodyguard, Keith Schiller, about being the victim of phone pranks. You were actually talking to Mr. Schiller about harassing phone calls from a 14-year-old, Blanche said heatedly. Mr. Cohen said no, but was definitive. I believe I spoke to Mr. Trump. The call made to Mr. Schiller's phone lasted about a minute and a half. So you're looking at 90 seconds. Whether jurors believe that conversation was an update on hush money payments or prank calls will affect Mr. Cohen's credibility. Reciting Cohen's lies has a cumulative effect. Remember, this is the New York Times reporting this. Prosecutors have tried to blunt attacks on Mr. Cohen's credibility by introducing the jury to a myriad of legal problems in a stint in prison. That strategy, however, could only go so far. The defense had many lines of attack available on Thursday. Mr. Blanche pressed Mr. Cohen about disavowing his 2018 guilty pleas for personal financial crimes and tax evasion related to hush money payoffs. He was also asked about lying to a federal judge and making a false statement to Congress. Jurors may not remember every attack, but they could buy the defense's overall contention that Mr. Cohen is not to be trusted.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and you have to see what redirect happens today, because it was very, very good from the stuff that I was reading. It was very smart by Blanche to attack the subject of the phone call. However, the process that I'm reading is that Cohen would always call the bodyguard first, because Trump famously does not keep a cell phone and doesn't use it. And so you have to call someone adjacent to him. And so this would, again, in redirect, you ask whether or not this is the usual procedure, that you would call him and then you would hand it to him. The real issue is going to be, in my mind, the length of the phone call. I believe the length of the phone call is somewhere around 90 seconds or 98, somewhere in that range. So the idea that you get to do, it doesn't mean you can't, but you're doing both pieces of business. You're doing the, hey, this guy's calling me and I've got to have him stop it, etc. It's weird that you would call Trump about that, and then update him on the payment. That can be accomplished in that 98 seconds. Both of those things can happen, but right now it's a challenge because Blanche has done a wonderful job of putting forward some doubt about, are you really that concerned about it? Was this really a call about the payment? Was the payment really an afterthought? And the problem that it creates for Cohen and for the prosecution is, was Cohen really that concerned about being paid back? Because that's the reason he recorded Donald Trump in the first place. So there are all sorts of doubts based on Cohen's narrative. Now, does this sink the prosecution case? No, because it is a small point in the timeline. But if redirect doesn't clean it up, yeah, you can have some reasonable doubt and you can lose one or two jurors. Absolutely. So this is going to be a huge day for prosecution. They've got to clean this mess up and bring
they're
Cohen
not in
back
today.
To it.
It'll be Monday.
That's right. It's Monday.
So they're out today.
That's right. It's graduation day, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. So Monday. Again, that is a huge boon for prosecution. They get 3 days to figure out how we do this. It would be awful after yesterday to have to come in today and have to do it. But however, that does sit in the jurors' minds for 3 days.
Yeah, that was going to be my counterpoint on that.
But again, if you come in and they think about it, oh, well, and then the prosecution answers those doubts, you're okay. And that's going to be the thing. The prosecution today should be in a brainstorm. What are the doubts? Get in the mind of a juror. What do they think? What are the possible conclusions they can come to? And then how do we knock those down? So if they're not in a strategy session today doing the whiteboard thing about what questions do we do to shore this back up and show that while they poked a hole in it, that both things can be true, that he can talk about the kid and he can also talk about the money, then you're going to be okay. So prosecution, it's a little bit dangerous that you got 3 days, but I would prefer to have the 3 days rather than turn around and win 24 hours personally. I think it gives you a
I
strategy.
think you're probably right about that. And this thing's coming to a close very quickly. So you'll probably have redirect on Monday. Yeah. But if the defense, and they haven't made up their mind as to whether or not Trump's going to testify or not, I don't think he won't.
He won't.
I don't think he will.
And the weird part is, and again, this is what you need to come back to in the promises that he did. Every single one of these things, he promises to testify. He stands out and he tells the supporters, I'm going to testify. He made the promise in public. He was going to testify, and he doesn't.
Yeah,
weird.
Well, he changed his mind.
Or he wasn't that truthful in the first place. But he knew he wasn't going to, and he's going to make that statement just to make it look strong. Because there's a pattern here of him making the statement and then not showing up in court. And the other question on the defense is, who do you bring up? They're thinking one witness at most. And if you don't have any, what does that look like for the jurors?
Yeah.
What does that look? The jurors are like, wait a minute, you can't put anybody in front of us to negate the timeline. You can't put anybody in front of us that says something else happened instead. That to me has always been a real big gamble based on the defense, that you're like, no, I think I've poked enough holes in the prosecution case. We don't have to do anything to convince the jurors. I would be real worried if I was Trump if we're not putting up anybody in the defense.
I think too, you got to have at least one or two witnesses. I don't think you put Trump up. And look,
you can't put him
up. When I finish typically at my show here, I go have lunch and then I watch 2020.
Yeah,
it's like those real crime or court TV or those types of things. I love them. Dive into that stuff all the time. So I'm a bit of an aficionado when it comes to watching this stuff, and all the criminal defense guys are like, never have your client testify. Never have your client testify.
Never.
But if you just kind of rest the case too and try to do that, well, they didn't prove their case. Boom, that doesn't seem to work out either.
No, it doesn't.
So you kind of need to split the middle. What is going to be interesting is you've got maybe one more day, and then what the judge said is he's actually preparing for closing arguments next week.
Yeah, because I've heard Trump's defense has floated one witness total.
Right.
That's it.
And that's on election law.
Yeah. And that's going to be tough. Again, And I understand the idea of the defense saying, well, the prosecution hasn't proved their case and they haven't done it this way and they haven't done that. If the jurors disagree with you, you're losing. You got to give them, I'm always of the opinion, you got to give them some meat. You've got to bring something to the table to show an alternate timeline, an alternate story. You've got to show them why, based on our experts or based on our witnesses, why the timeline that the prosecution is showing you doesn't hold.
To me, that's not as important as this isn't even a crime. All right. We are getting a text message here, 3300. Bill, why aren't you a lawyer? You could have been a good litigator.
I don't know, maybe. Maybe. Okay. The first thing that popped in my mind, again, I apologize to all my friends that are lawyers, and I'll share this now. The first thing that popped in my mind is like, because I have ethics and morals. I mean, values. I mean, that would be it. I mean, again, that's not a nice joke, but yeah. So.
I've told there are only two lawyers in my life that I've liked.
Yeah.
My wife, who is an attorney, and the lawyer that represents me.
Oh, there you go. That's true. That is true. It's absolutely true.
Also, the defense finds a motive in Cohen's self-interest. Again, from the New York Times. Mr. Cohen said this week that he had turned against Mr. Trump after he was raided by federal agents in 2018, saying his loyalty should have been to my wife, my daughter, my son, and the country. But defense lawyers suggest Mr. Cohen was out for payback, playing a portion of a October 2020 podcast in which Mr. Cohen sounded giddy as he celebrated the investigations into Mr. Trump, saying that, quote, revenge is a dish best served cold, unquote. He concluded, I want this man to go down and rot inside for what he did to me and my family. Mr. Blanche also painted Mr. Cohen as upset over not getting a White House job after the 2016 election, asking him about conversations that indicated he had wanted to be chief of staff. Yeah. The sense I got from reading these reports, and again, remember, this trial is not televised, and the transcripts from yesterday, official transcripts, will not be released until about 9 o'clock tonight on Friday. So you get this bizarre 30-hour delay, and you rely on these transcripts. And New York Times and Washington Post both essentially live tweet. So they have a webpage where you can scroll through, and they kind of try to live tweet basically what's happening. But when I read these reports, and the thing that like the kind of more liberal media highlighted was Michael Cohen's ability to stay cool.
Yeah, and I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure I buy into that, because I had heard, and was it? And I don't know if it was someone that was on Hewitt's program this morning or someone last night, but they talked about Cohen was a strong witness until he got pressed based on previous answers. Yeah, and then all of a sudden he seemed confused by the questions.
It was Anderson Cooper.
Okay, okay, that's what it was then. And that I thought that was interesting. I also think that when they were attacking Cohen based on his previous statements, I don't know how many of them they went after, but tactically I thought some of them were strong and some of them weren't. Like the idea of bringing in the statement that, I'm mad and I want him to pay for what he did to me and that would seem normal. That would seem, if you feel wronged by someone in any way, shape, or form, that you would want to show that, bring them back. I think that's a weakness. I would not have, if I'm on the defense, I would not have brought that in. But I would bring in the idea that, yes, finally, he's going to get his. I'm so happy about it. I would truncate it. I would keep out the idea that I'm mad because of what happened to me when I was with him. It would have been just, I want to get him. I want to get him. I want to get him. Right. That's what I would have pushed. And I would have left it up to the prosecution to continue the line of thought that Cohen is mad about the fact that what happened to him. The other thing that I think I'm curious about how they're going to approach that election law potential defense witness is, depending on how they approach it, Michael Cohen went to jail for the same thing, for this violation, and had to go to prison. So it's going to be an interesting witness when, the guy that was the witness that we just cross-examined seemed to go to jail for much the same thing that now you're saying that Trump shouldn't. That's going to be an interesting line, and I don't know how they're going to prep that. They're not exactly the same, but they are in the same zip code. And that's going to be an interesting line.
And the argument from the FEC as to why not to prosecute Trump was because they already prosecuted Michael Cohen.
Yeah.
They essentially said, why do we need to punish everybody involved with this?
Yeah.
We'll just punish that guy.
Which is an interesting argument, because then again, if I am the prosecuting attorney, I come in and say, if we have a group of people, 5 of them that are organized to steal cars, and we arrest them, do we only put one in jail?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want all 5 of them in jail? I mean, what is it? Do you want the ringleader or do you just want the lower minions?
Well,
and that would be the idea. It's a narrative, and I'm going to have to see how the defense plays it, because this is an interesting gamble given Cohen's history and what he was put in prison
so
for.
we had Chris Murray on Tuesday, and this was an argument I made about this all along too, was it's essentially the same thing that the Clinton campaign got popped with the Steele dossier. They didn't get popped for building something that was false. They didn't get popped for shopping it. They got popped for misrecording the donation paid for it in their FEC filings.
Yeah.
It was a line item thing. Yeah. And so if you're the defense, you just go, well, the Clinton campaign paid a fine.
Yep. And that, to me, is the strongest argument, is that, dude, my client did this. This is a bad thing, but it's not a felony. It's a misdemeanor. And if I was the defense, I would be going after Bragg, saying he's overcharged. He's reaching. Yeah. He has done X, he has done Y, he has done Z in order to make sure that he can get my client. My client should be allowed to pay a fine. This is a misdemeanor. But what's happening in this court today for a felony, this is a miscarriage of justice. That's the way that I'd go after it.
It's an FEC fine. Yeah. I mean, that happens every election cycle.
Absolutely.
There will be violations, FEC violations in Colorado this upcoming cycle because someone didn't record something or somebody was trying. Yeah. I'm kind of working on an article about that now because I think there's some shadiness happening in Douglas County.
If I was Trump's attorney, I mean, I would go so far as to say my client has his checkbook and his debit card here today. He will pay the fine. The FCC determines, but it's not a felony. That's the argument. That to me, that's persuadable. If I'm on the jury, that persuades me. Even if I think Donald Trump is guilty as sin of this, even if I think Donald Trump shouldn't be president, even if I would do everything I could to not vote for him ever, you make the argument in court, if I'm being reasonable, that this is a misdemeanor, not a felony. The prosecution is right that something happened. They're just overcharging, and this is what happens to everybody else. And my client's willing to pay that. You win. You win. I think you win that.
And I would make the argument that it's not a misdemeanor against New York law. Yeah. It's a misdemeanor against the FEC, which just levies. Yeah. In some cases, they do put people in prison. I think that's what Dinesh went to prison for.
Yeah,
right?
and I think it's a number of it has to do. There's a number of things, but I think it's a really strong argument to concede the act. The idea of saying it's this, but it's not a felony. That this, can you look at the situation and realize that everybody else that does this doesn't get popped for felony, and that the district attorney who made a political point and part of his campaign to indict my client is trying to make good on his campaign promise, and in order to do that, he's twisting the law. Now, again, my client is more than happy to pay the fine, but he shouldn't be held liable for felony. That's the argument. That's winnable. That's something that'll persuade the jury.
All right. I want to talk next when we come back. Congress threatens contempt for Garland, and the White House says the Hur tapes are privileged. What is going on there? Joe Biden claiming executive privilege. First, I want to talk to you about the Colorado Farm Bureau. Whether you pulled out your skis or snowmobiles this last winter, it was a great year for winter fun. But the snow means even more to Colorado's agriculture, and I want you to know that our state's farmers and ranchers are doing their part to protect our future water resources. The people of Colorado agriculture continue improving the efficiency of their irrigation systems and adopting farming practices that help crops use less water to grow. They're planting drought-resistant varieties, and they're leading talks with state policymakers about how to preserve water supplies when we have good years like this last one. My friends at the Colorado Farm Bureau are leaders in water conservation and water policy. They understand how to balance water for crops and water for families, and they're doing more with less. You can do your part. I recommend you join and become a member today. Go to coloradofarmbureau.com. That's coloradofarmbureau.com. Friends, when we return, what does it mean that Joe Biden is claiming executive privilege, and how is this going to affect the 2024 election? You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Berlin, I'm Trent Murray, and here are the top stories we're following. New discoveries in space are teaching scientists more about black holes. In New York, Kelly Bianco has the details.
The Webb Space Telescope has discovered the earliest known merger of black holes. Scientists reported Thursday that two gigantic and distant black holes and their galaxies consolidated just 740 million years after the universe forming Big Bang. One black hole is 50 million times more massive than our sun. The other is thought to be similar in size. The latest findings suggest mergers are how black holes can grow so rapidly. Reporting in New York, I'm Haley Bianco, Salem News Channel.
Israel's defense forces said 5 of its soldiers were killed in Gaza after taking friendly fire from IDF tanks. The troops, aged between 20 and 22, died when the 2 tanks fired on a building in the Jabalia refugee camp where the soldiers had been gathered. Israel's defense ministry blamed the accident on a complex operational environment and promised an investigation. It comes as the IDF says it's preparing to move further into the Rafah border area between Gaza and Egypt. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Trent Murray in Berlin on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. President Biden, according to the Washington Post, has asserted executive privilege over the audio recordings from the special counsel investigation into his handling of classified materials and will refuse congressional requests to hand them over, the White House and the Justice Department said in separate letters to House Republican leaders on Thursday. The letters were sent as the GOP-led House Oversight and Judiciary Committees were preparing to advance a contempt resolution against Attorney General Merrick Garland for defying a subpoena that demanded the recordings, which includes hours of special counsel Robert Hur interviewing Biden. Biden's assertion of executive privilege means that Garland is prohibited from releasing the tapes to Congress. It could exacerbate already high tensions between the Biden administration and Congress and further motivate Republicans to hold Garland in contempt. According to a letter between the Attorney General and President that was made public Thursday, Garland asked Biden to say the recordings were privileged and said releasing the recordings to Congress could harm future efforts to get officials to cooperate with investigations and sit for taped interviews. In public remarks at the Justice Department headquarters, Garland sharply rebuked what he characterized as the Congressional Committee's repeated disparagement of the law enforcement agency, which he said places its prosecutors and investigators in danger. He vowed to protect the people and its building. Now, the White House already has the transcripts of the interview, but they want the actual recordings. And what the Biden administration is saying is that you're going to use these to distort the recordings for political gain. That's essentially why they denied it.
Yeah, of course they are.
You're going to take and use these recordings to advance political gain. Bill, you know, I'm reading all this because this article also gets into the fact that why congressional Republicans have not been able to, at this point, build a case against Hunter Biden and connect it to Joe Biden.
Yeah, not at all.
They haven't been able to build that.
There isn't a single thing.
And so I sit here, 5 months out from the election.
Yeah.
And I go, all right, you dopes leading this country.
Yeah.
You brought 99 indictments against Donald Trump and ran out there and created all this stuff and mucked up all this into court and this criminal trial that's taking place in Manhattan and the spectacle that's become. And we're now investing all of these congressional resources into Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. And I just think we're going to get through all this and there's going to be no there on either side.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got some there on the Trump side. And the thing that I come back to is a classified documents case. I understand the assumption that you operate on. No, they asked for him back and he said, no, mine. I mean, and that's different. And again,
he's the president.
No, he wasn't. Not at the time.
He said he declassified them.
Yeah, but we have no proof of that. I mean, and the problem is this, that there's a process for declassifying them. He just can't say they're declassified and then they are.
And so
there's a process.
That's a policy difference.
No,
go
but
ahead.
There's a process that the documents he had would have had the classification notes changed. That has to happen before the documents are officially declassified. There has to be notations on the documents. Otherwise, they are not declassified. That's how it happens. None of those documents had any of those notations, and there's no process of him talking to anybody saying they were. And this is the problem. If I assume that you're right, that he declassified all of them, then you and I can get access to them based on Freedom of Information Act. And that means the Iranians, the North Koreans,
I disagree
and
with
the
that.
Chinese. No. If they're declassified, they're open for freedom of information.
I don't know if that's true.
No, that is true. That's why. That's what wait, Jeff. That's what declassification means. They are public files. If he declassifies them, they're open for FOIA requests. So, are you assuming that all the information that Donald Trump had, he was willing to share with Iran, North Korea, and China?
I don't know if I believe you that a president's personal documents that have been declassified.
Wait, personal. Hold on. They're not his personal documents.
Hey, sure. Why not?
No, they're not. They're not.
Why not?
What? Hold on.
Why aren't they his personal documents?
Who do the documents belong to?
Right. Well, you're saying that the National Archives, because of I understand the argument you're making that the archives gets those, but why wouldn't they be his personal documents?
Hold on. Wait. Okay. Help me understand this. How does the president convert government property into personal property?
Why not?
What do you mean, why not?
Because he's been working there for 4 years. You think there's a distinction between his personal life and his work life for those 4 years?
That's how the government's set up. And here's the idea.
Yeah.
If it is, hang on a sec. If it can convert government property to personal property, can he just decide, can Joe Biden decide the Resolute desk is now Joe Biden's desk and take it home with him?
Didn't Clinton try to do that with a whole bunch of furniture?
And they got in trouble for it. Yes, they did. So that's the example, is that Clinton tried to do that and they got in trouble for it. But you think that was okay? I mean, honestly, if you think,
I don't think it's right for, and this gets into that archives policy and law that exists there, that everything that the president does for 4 years belongs to the government.
No, it's not everything the president does. It's everything the government does for 4 years belongs to the government. The president is an officer of the government. It's not a permanent position. The president is an officer. No, the president is an office, and it's temporary. And inside of the system, that is work product that is produced by the government. It is not the president's private property ever. And if you're going to argue that, then you should say it's okay for Joe Biden to take the Resolute desk home with him, because he can convert it to personal property.
I don't think you have to make that leap, but
yes, it's not a leap. Jeff, it's not a leap.
Sure, it is.
It's
to go
papers,
to say these are documents that the president has that he wants to declare as personal, and he'd like to take with him, is the same thing as being able to take the Resolute desk.
Yeah.
I don't think those are the same.
There's a process to declare personal property that you want to take home. There's a process there. And did Trump go through that process?
And the argument there against that process is that you have now deemed somebody other than the president of the United States as the determiner as to whether or not something can be classified, declassified, personal documents, official government documents.
No.
You've made somebody else the God King to make those determinations rather than the president of the United States.
No, but
and they're not elected.
No, hang on.
And I don't like that.
Donald Trump, when he left the office, is no longer the president. He can't make any declarations about the documents.
But he's saying some of these were while
the documents were classified when he left. There's no information showing them being declassified. We have no information. If he can show any information that these documents were declassified, then you and I can go ahead and Freedom of Information Act request them, and we can see them. So can North Korea. So can China. No, Jeff, that's the rule. Jeff, that is the rule.
I just don't believe you on that. I don't believe that a president
hang on a sec.
coming up with personal documents,
they're not
all
his
of a
personal
sudden
documents.
Is foiable.
No, they're not his personal documents.
I'd love
even
to read.
Jeff, even if he declassifies them, they are still the property of the U.S. government.
Yeah, that's where you and I disagree on that.
No,
because you're creating another system, and this is what I think
Jeff,
the Trump's. This is what Trump's going to argue. By the way, we got to get to a commercial break here, but this is where I think Trump's going to argue if this case ever went to case or went before trial, is that when you have a system by which the president has to follow in order for a document that he wants to take with him post his presidency has to become declassified. And again, this is why it's different with Mike Pence and with Joe Biden, is because they weren't president at the time. They were vice president at the time. You've now put somebody else in charge of deeming whether or not those documents should be classified or not. And that person is not elected. And I think there's a case there that the president should be the one to make those determinations.
The rule is that he cannot turn those things into his personal property. If he declassifies them, if he does, they're open to Freedom of Information Act requests. No, that is a fact.
I don't know about that.
Wait, they're documents produced by the government. If he declassifies them, they still belong to the government, and they're open to FOIA requests.
I don't see. Do you see people going through all of Obama's stuff when he was president, and FOIAing all that, and reading his personal items?
Again, it's personal items versus government property. Right. And the documents that Trump had was government property, not personal. And he can't, I know you can't see it that way, but he can't make them personal property until you can show me the process. It's still a government property. And then it's open for FOIA requests. That's how it works. He doesn't get to keep them. They're not his. He doesn't get to turn them into his. And there's a process. If he wants to take them home, there's a process.
He's the president of the United States.
Why can't so Joe Biden can take home the Resolute desk. We're back to this again.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are, because you're like, why not? Why can't he take home stuff that he just wants?
All right.
That's it. We're back to
we've got to get to You Choose the News here. And then in the 7 o'clock hour, Lauren Boebert's going to join us. But I want to talk to you about Empower Home and Gay Ribble. We hosted Gay here in the studio multiple times. Absolutely delightful woman. That's step number one. You want to work with somebody that is just a delight to work with, right? Selling a home can be very stressful, and Gay Ribble is a very kind person, great to work with. Number two, she shares our values. The proceeds from her sales go to support orphans in the state of Colorado. Why? Because she was also an orphan. Number 3, and she wants to help them find their forever home, which is great. That's what we all believe in here. Number 3, she is a pro, right? We all have family members. We all have friends that are involved in selling homes and real estate agents. But when it comes to working with Gay Ribble, she can get her clients an average of $30,000 more. Could you use an extra $30,000? That's precisely why you need Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Their exclusive database is filled with pre-screened buyers ready to make a purchase. Take the stress and hassle out of selling your home while getting the best price. Here's an unbeatable offer. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team will sell your house for 100% of the asking price, or Gay will pay you the difference. It's an offer you simply cannot refuse. Get 100% of your asking price guaranteed with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Be sure to give them a call today, 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. When we come back, you choose the news. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
All right, let's do You Choose the News, Bill.
Alrighty, yes, it is that time of the morning where we play everybody's favorite fake radio news game show, You Choose the News. But it's Friday. It's the loser edition.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
Junior!
Let's go. Loser! You're a loser!
The Losers Club.
Bunch of losers.
You're such a loser.
You made me feel like a loser!
She's a loser.
You are such a loser.
Loser.
Yes, it is the losers. It is those stories that Jeff and Blake deemed unworthy of your attention earlier this week. So they are coming back for a second chance of glory to play this fake radio news game show. You know how it works. We scour interwebs for mere moments, give these dumb stories about us humans even more ridiculous headlines to play this fake radio news game because those in charge don't wake up for another 9 minutes. Alrighty, gentlemen, here are our returning stories. Headline number 1, no good deed goes unpunished. Headline number 2, do they have to change the name? Headline number 3, surprise, you're having family for dinner. And headline number 4, Munster on the loose. All righty, Mr. Hunt.
Surprise, we're having family for dinner.
Surprise, you're having family for dinner. We're traveling to the lovely state of Washington for this one, specifically Port Orchard, Washington, where we are meeting Nathan Gray. Nathan Gray recently was out on an event with his family when they got a notice from their closed circuit TV cameras that are on their farm. It watches over the house, and they noticed, they were alerted that an unknown vehicle has entered the property. They turned around, went back home, and when they discovered, one of the farm hands ran up to him and said, Mr. Gray, they've killed the pigs. But what happened was there was a mobile butcher that got the address wrong, showed up on the Gray's property, and took the Gray's children's pet pigs and butchered them. They show up just in time to have the man ask, well, what do you want me to do with them? Do you want me to continue butchering them, or what do you want to do? And they're like, we're going to bury them, you monster. But yeah, the guy somehow in the GPS, he said, oh, I'm sorry, it's screwed
Wrong
up.
house.
He showed up in the wrong house, evidently didn't bother to check the
Ring
address.
the doorbell first,
Yeah,
man.
I know. Didn't even bother to check the address. Didn't double check the address or nothing. And just decided, well, here's some pigs. Obviously, I need to kill them. Yeah. And then the real fun part about it is the Gray's children were there in the car and saw the dead pigs as they came out. And they said, yeah, they were treated like dogs and let in the house. And yeah, that's going to be great. That's not going to look good on the Yelp review. That's not going to go well. No.
Seems like something you could solve really easy.
Exactly.
By just being like, hey, here to kill your pigs.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait,
Can we
what?
check with someone? Yeah, I know. And ask anybody before you start doing it, because there were other people working there on the farm. They didn't ask anybody. They just came in and just shot the pigs in the head immediately. And that's when everything went sideways. All right. Second choice, sir. No good deed goes unpunished. Do they have to change the name or Munster on the loose?
Let's do no good deed.
Yeah, no good deed goes unpunished. Here we're going to North Carolina. Rhonda Deaver is a huge fan of Smith's Cafe in Kinston, but she may not be a regular after this. Recently, she left her credit card behind after paying for her delicious breakfast. Unfortunately, one of the workers there who was trying to do a good deed and track down Ms. Deaver made the unfortunate choice to take pictures of her credit card and then share it online. Yes, she took pictures of both the front and the back of the credit card, just to help out. Well, she did help out, but she helped all the scammers. Ms. Deaver is now fighting tens of thousands of dollars of charges that were racked up within moments of her card going live online.
Wow.
Yeah, again, the server just was trying to help out. And ends up, she's had to close the card and she's fighting with the bank, tens of thousands of dollars in charges because they posted both the front and the back. So they had the security code. Yeah, that's all they needed.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, no, don't do that. All righty. Blake Olson, final choice this morning, sir. Do they have to change the name or Munster on the loose?
Let's go with, do they have to change the name?
Yeah, do they have to change the name? The maker of the Swiss Army knife says they are updating things and they are getting into the future. In fact, they are in the early stages of actually developing pocket tools without a single knife blade. Don't imagine we can call them Swiss Army knives. But they said innovation has always been the core of the brand, and they acknowledge that there is an appetite for the functionality, versatility, and craftsmanship of the classic Swiss Army knife. It's just there are some places that having any sort of a bladed weapon or instrument in your pocket becomes an issue. There are certain English and Asian areas and even parts of Europe where even the small blade of a Swiss Army knife would be considered a weapon. So they're going to find ways to go ahead and work around that. They said they've got a cool tool for cyclists and they're already working on a tool for golfers. So there will be some specialized tools just without the blade. Obviously, though, Can't call them Swiss Army knives, though, can we? Because they're no longer a
what
knife.
about the can opener?
I know. That's exactly it. And that screwdriver. I love that screwdriver.
Oh, screwdriver.
Yeah. And did you get the one that had the? I mean, you never used the toothpick, but the tweezers. Oh, the tweezers were awesome.
Oh,
that's
screw.
amazing.
Awesome.
Yes.
I love.
Yeah,
those
there were
things.
so many things, and the saw was always it was hard. It was not really sharp. But yeah,
No,
I
it
know.
wasn't, but you could use it for something.
Yes, you could. Well, that is it. That is the end of You Choose the News. As always, Jeff and Blake are our big winners. This is probably not sponsored by Roll 'em Out Shelves. Book your free in-home estimate today. They'll organize your kitchen, your bath, your garage. It is wonderful solutions, but they're not associated with You Choose the News. Check them out at rollemoutshelves.com. Back to you, sir.
Lauren Boebert, 7 o'clock hour. You're not going to want to miss it. We're asking her what it was like in court with Trump yesterday. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Good morning, Denver. It's 7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Friday, May 17th, and you've tuned into the Jeff and Bill on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and sometimes crazy. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Feel free to give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Let's check in on Blake Olson's news. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning, Jeff and Bill. 53 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the low 80s today. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story: an Eldora ski resort employee died while assisting with trail maintenance Thursday. Officials say the worker was crushed by a falling tree. No further details on the accident have been released. Searchers have recovered the body of missing hiker Lucas Makaj. The 23-year-old went missing while summiting Long's Peak on Sunday. A search team found his body on Mills Glacier near Lamb's Slide. Investigators say it appears he fell from a significant height, though an official cause of death hasn't been released. I-70 is open again after a deadly crash involving a tanker truck shut down the interstate near Morrison Thursday. The driver of the vehicle that crashed into the truck died.
Coming back from Arizona, we live in Fort Collins. Just terrible to see such a terrible crash and all the traffic that it caused.
Definitely a horrific accident for sure.
The Denver Police Department will no longer pull over drivers for minor traffic offenses. This includes infractions such as expired tags, driving with a headlight out, or anything that doesn't pose an immediate threat to public safety. The goal of the new policy is to prioritize safety-related traffic offenses and improve public relations. Governor Polis signed several bills into law Thursday while riding an RTD train from Westminster to Denver. One provides more funding for transit projects through new fees on oil and gas production. Another extends the program that gives free rides during ozone season. A third law tax a $3 daily fee on rental cars, which could help reach the goal of statewide passenger rail. People living in Aurora say they don't want a proposed oil and gas project to move forward in the area. It's called the Lowry Ranch Comprehensive Area Plan, and it would bring 166 oil wells to a 32,000 square acre area near the Aurora Reservoir. The world's top-ranked golfer, Scottie Scheffler, was detained by a Louisville police officer near the entrance of the PGA Championship this morning. He drove past an accident where one person died. Scheffler was not involved in the accident, but was placed in handcuffs as he tried to enter Valhalla Golf Club. Police say a shuttle bus struck and killed a pedestrian trying to cross a road outside the club this morning. The House has passed a bill that would prevent President Biden from withholding weapons to Israel. The Republican move is in response to Biden's decision to pause a shipment of bombs to Israel due to concerns over a full-scale military operation in Rafah. The bill is not likely to advance in the Senate, and Biden said he would veto it. Former President Trump will be attending his youngest son's high school graduation today. Barron Trump is getting his diploma from Oxbridge Academy in Palm Beach, Florida. 4 people have died from severe weather in Houston. More than 1 million people are without power as power lines and trees were knocked down across the city. 51 in Littleton right now, 50 in Arvada, 53 in Denver.
A dominant, authoritative bounce-back win from the Minnesota Timberwolves.
The T-Wolves were backed against the corner, and they responded. Minnesota crushes the Nuggets 115-70 in Game 6. Game 7 in Denver on Sunday, Western Conference semifinals. And the Avs play host to the Stars tonight at Ball Arena in Game 6. If they win, they force a Game 7 in Dallas. The Rockies go for 8 straight tonight, and Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast, quite warm on this Friday. We're going to see temperatures soar all the way to the mid to upper 80s. Lows tonight near 50. Highs will be a little cooler, but staying in the 70s Saturday, upper 70s and low 80s Sunday. For Saturday and Sunday, both days could bring a few afternoon and evening thunderstorms. A better chance that we'll see some showers and thunderstorms, and temperatures are going to trend cooler heading into Monday and into the day on Tuesday. I'm meteorologist Don Day on the 710 KNUS Weather Center. The 710 5-day forecast.
All right, we were talking about the fact that Joe Biden is claiming executive privilege as it relates to the Her tapes, making the argument that Republicans already have the transcripts. All you're going to do with that audio is cut it up and use it for political purposes. Isn't it crazy when people use lawfare to go after their political opponents? All right, let's go to Frank in Denver. Frank, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, hi, guys. Hey, I was just going to ask Bill whether he thinks that tape should be allowed, that the AG should be compelled to give that tape to Congress.
Yeah, I would defer at this point to executive privilege, regardless of who the president is, because you already have the transcript. And I do believe that in a similar situation, regardless of the party requesting it, it would be used to, as they are saying, take quotes out of context and to misrepresent the audio. The transcript is there. I fail to see the necessity to have the actual audio. Should the audio be released after Biden leaves office? Yeah, I would say that's it when the executive privilege would expire. But I would say that if it was an interview with Trump during his presidency as well, or any of the presidents, I believe at that point, the president can declare that to be executive privilege. Because, again, it is an interview about things that happened in the purview necessarily of his job as well. So that's what I would do. But because, again, we have the transcript. If we're worried about what he said, we do know. It's not like they're hiding the actual words. But are the words going to be lifted and used in quotes and probably taken out of context? Yeah, absolutely. Because that's what I would expect of both political parties. I would expect both the Democrats and the Republicans to do that if they got a hold of an audio recording of the major political opponent in the race. Yes, absolutely. That would happen.
I think I'd have to differ with you, Billy.
Okay.
And the reason is that I would cite as evidence is the fact that in court nowadays, the one of the absolute sine qua non of, let's say, an auto accident is either visual footage or recordings made by the cameras and telephones that people have. It makes such a difference to actually see what's going on. It's much better than a transcribed report by a police officer. And also in this case, I think it's very important to know the state of the mind of the president, which he's using, and people are claiming, oh, he is not competent. I'm afraid Joe is still sharp enough to do selective competence. I think he can decide the way he wants to present himself. He's a great actor, a great misrepresenter. He's done that his entire career for his purposes. And I think the other thing is that if you saw a tape that truly was indicative of a person who was not competent, it might have bearing on the invocation of the 25th Amendment.
Tell me what evidence would be available in that recording that's not available in the transcript.
Oh, my God, Billy. I think the pauses, the inflections, the attitudes, the pauses in the voice, any voice expert or any court expert that could hear those things, and a lawyer
isn't.
Could
Frank,
tell.
Isn't that already outlined in the Her report?
No,
yes, it is.
Not in depth. No.
Yes, it is.
The written thing is in no way comparable to the visual and auditory.
No, but it is a direct. It's like a stenographer. As far as the transcript, and inside the Her report, he does already outline the concerns that you have. So again, I have to see the new information.
To Frank's point, I would love to hear this with regards to the Trump trials. And you don't. You're just kind of like, I'm stuck reading transcripts that are 90 hours old, and you just miss a lot of it.
I would love to hear this as far as the Trump trial is, but I'm like, okay, that's the system, so that's how it works. And same thing here. And Frank, you do go back to the idea that you're saying the conclusion. You want to hear how infirm Biden is. So what you're doing is you're actually proving Biden's case that the audio would be used in order to prove negatives against him, regardless of what the transcript says, that it would be the idea of we are going to create this impression based on how the audio sounds, not based on actual competence or what happened in the transcript. So what you said there was actually proving Biden's case. So you would say that, you're actually reinforcing what he says, that it would be used against him that way.
No, it's not proving Biden's case.
Yeah,
Biden is capable of selective competence or incompetence. Like he made the comment the other day when he was asked about having a debate with Trump, and he kind of made this off-the-cuff remark. I understand you're available on Wednesdays. I don't know whether he was told to say that or whether that came to him spontaneously. I think the guy is a lot sharper at times, depending on what medications or whatever, rest or state of mind or how much ice cream. I don't know. I just think that his state of competency waxes and wanes, and I'm afraid that it's presidency by committee and people who are handlers and behind him, and not all the ability of the president.
And I see what you're saying, Frank, and here's the biggest weakness in that argument is that the Republicans have decided to run a 77-year-old against him. If you're running someone that is like Haley's age, someone DeSantis' age, now the age question really does become a fulcrum. But when you run someone that is 77, that goes out on the campaign trail and also mushmouths things and gets things wrong and gets dates wrong and people wrong, that hurts as well. I understand it is an indictment based on Biden's mental condition and his performance. But when the other choice is a 77-year-old guy that does similar things, not as strong of a use as far as being a negative.
You can't paint with a broad brush. Obviously, people decline in certain mental acuity as they age, but I certainly, from listening to Trump versus some of the things that Biden is saying, there's no comparison. Now, the argument is that Biden is under tremendous pressure all the time to be the president. Look at pictures of any president, 1, 2, 3, 4 years after they're into their thing. Their hair is graying, they're slowing down. Look at Obama. Obama aged a lot in 8 years, and all presidents do. So there's a tremendous workload on the president. The question is not that. The question is whether he's competent at this time. There's two questions. Whether he's competent at this time to do the job, and then going back in time, was the president competent when he did these things that he's actually being asked the questions about? What was his state of mind and mens rea at that time?
Frank, I appreciate the call. Frank from Denver. Frank's line will be open 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. Coming up here in just a few minutes, Lauren Boebert will be joining us. This is, you and I kind of got sidetracked on the classified documents case and debating details on that. But here's where I stand on all this. I sit here and I go, okay, daily I've got to watch Trump trials and New York Times and Wall Street, Washington Post cover that. I got to read transcripts. Republicans are running out there. They want to claim they're want to go after Merrick Garland and get into executive privilege issues and contempt of Congress issues, and they're subpoenaing all this. And James Comer says he's going to bring criminal charges against Hunter Biden. All stuff. I sit there and go, how does this help my family? In all of this political back and forth, up and down all the time, I just go, guys, solve some problems in this country. My goodness. All right, let's go to Tony in Littleton. Tony, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Yeah, I was listening to the comments, the discussion around the documents case, and then it's similar to the January 6th case. You've got opinions that about the case, but oftentimes I think the premise is wrong, and so then the opinions end up being kind of, I think, off track. And let's take the documents case first, and that is government documents and personal documents has been defined, and I don't know if it was defined by the court or by the archive, but it's been defined. It's like private documents, personal documents are diaries. I think some letters can be considered personal documents, but you can't have a government document about our nuclear capabilities and declare that as a personal document. That's just a fact. You can't you can't FOIA a personal document. Nobody can ask to see personal documents. But if you do declassify a government document, then it can be FOIA'd. Now, when they go into trial, the judge, the prosecution, the defense, and the jury are going to know those rules. They're not going to be in there debating, oh, this was a personal document. Those are not personal documents. It's just a fact. And you have and that's what they're going to start with as facts. It's same with January 6th. They're going to start with the fact that the election was not stolen. The judge, the prosecution, the defense, and the jury. The election was not stolen, and the case will begin there. So for your comments or anybody's comments, maybe if we just start with what is determined, what are the facts that all those parties have to just acknowledge. There is no debating, was the election stolen? There is no debate, is this a personal document? That's not going to happen.
Nancy
in that trial.
Pelosi the other day talk about the hijack, the 2016 election. There's debate about elections all the time, Tony.
There's no debate. There's no debate about when the judge and the attorneys for prosecution and defense and the jury, they will start with the election was fair. There will be no debate. I mean, that's why you know that his attorneys never ever go into court room and say there's fraud. There was fraud. That almost got attorneys disbarred that were representing him, and that's why they dropped his case, because they can't go into there's no proof
Tony,
of
let me
fraud.
ask you this question. Nancy Pelosi at Oxford gets into a debate that the 2016 election was hijacked. She believes it was hijacked. If an attorney for Donald Trump says that an election was fraudulent and gets disbarred for that, what's the difference between the two?
Well, there's a big difference. She's not in a courtroom, and I guess she can express her opinions just like Donald Trump can express his opinion.
In a courtroom,
his attorneys don't go. His attorneys cannot go into a courtroom and say there's fraud. That's what they tried to do. I mean,
yeah. And my question is, why
early.
is one getting disbarred and one allowed to say that at Oxford?
Because they're saying it in a courtroom.
Yeah,
they're saying it in a courtroom.
Oxford is in a courtroom, and so Nancy Pelosi did it in public. And when the lawyers go into court and make these assertions, they're getting disbarred. That's the difference. And this is this is the funny part. This is the funny part. Is everybody says stuff about stolen elections, and everybody says that, but once they set foot into that courtroom, everything changes. Rudy Giuliani, his tune changed, didn't it, about the girls in Georgia? He goes out there and yells all the time.
They're not getting prosecuted for what they said in courtrooms.
No.
They're getting prosecuted for even showing up and having a meeting in a legislature.
No, they're showing. No, it's Rudy Giuliani was prosecuted for what he said in public and was asked in court to prove it, and he couldn't. That's why he's going to lose his license. That's why he got the huge judgment. Same thing with Fox News. Fox News went out and said, stolen election, and they got into court and said, yeah, we got nothing. That's what's happened over and over again, because in court, all of a sudden, facts and proof matter, and nobody has walked into court and been able to prove the election fraud. You can go out there and say all you want in a public
prosecuted in court for what they say in public.
Yes,
Jeff,
that's called defamation.
Then why wouldn't someone bring
that's called libel and
Nancy
defamation.
Pelosi up for
who did she libel?
She said, well, I get the sense that it's a private individual, right? So with Dominion,
yes,
and Eric Comer, it's a private individual. I understand that case.
Defamation. Yes, there we go.
But they're not losing their law licenses because of what they said about Eric Comer.
Nobody is being brought into court for just saying the election was stolen. Nobody's being dragged into losing their law. They're doing it based on statements they made about private individuals or actions they took in order to subvert the election.
No. Jenna Ellis and Rudy Giuliani are not losing their law licenses because of what they said about Eric Comer. The charges against them have to do with the alternate electors.
Yeah.
So what you just said was not right.
No, that was illegal. Those are the actions.
And they didn't do those in court. They did those in legislatures.
Yes, and that's why they're held. That's why they're held liable in court. When you go out and steal a car, you're not stealing a car in court.
Right.
Yeah, and you're held liable in court for your actions.
So
same thing here.
How does what they say violate freedom of speech issues, but what Nancy Pelosi says at Oxford
Hang on, Tony. It's not what she said. It's what she did. She is being prosecuted for the actions, not for the words.
But you just told me it was words, libel, and all this other stuff.
I said that's what we're dealing with on the
Those
one
are two
based on
separate
Fox.
Cases.
Yes, they are two separate cases. Yes, and two separate reasons, and both haven't been able to prove their stuff in court.
Now,
if Jenna could prove that it was stolen, she can walk into court and say we did the alternate electors and everything else because of the stolen election.
So
oddly, when that happens, they don't do it.
So here's what's happening. You have two people both claiming that the elections were rigged. Nancy Pelosi saying that it's hijacked. Jenna Ellis saying it was rigged. And only Jenna Ellis is being drugged before court and losing her law license.
Not based on
That's
speech.
The truth of what's happening.
Not based on speech. You're incorrect on your analogy.
Just get the facts right here. Now, there's a case, the very first case, I think it went into a Philadelphia court around the stolen election. He was represented by a huge law firm at the time that he'd had for several years working his cases. Those attorneys went into the courtroom and said, there's fraud. And the judge said, show me the fraud. And they said, well, we don't quite have it. And the judge said to them, you are officers of the court for now. You better bring proof if you're going to say that one more time. Those attorneys walked out and dropped the case. They knew exactly what they were up against. You cannot go. You can say anything, just like you can say anything. You say a lot of stuff, and you're not being prosecuted. You're just commenting on the air, but you're not in a courtroom. If you went into a courtroom,
but neither was Jenna Ellis. Jenna Ellis wasn't in a courtroom. She was in a legislative body.
She did not get indicted for her speech. She got indicted for actions. Different.
No,
absolutely.
That's not right.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Because her actions were speech.
No, she took
Yes,
actions.
they
No,
were.
she was part. No,
she's indicted for the
if she
statement
was
she
part of the
made
team-
in front of the Georgia legislature. That was speech.
No,
and Nancy
and her
Pelosi's
actions.
saying similar speech in Oxford, and everyone is just looking the other way.
all the attorneys that put their hands on the alternate elector ballots, the alternate elector ballots, all of those attorneys are being penalized because that was against the law.
No,
that
it wasn't.
was against
no,
the
it wasn't.
law.
Not in Colorado. It was only against the law as of 2 weeks ago.
I can't even follow now. I can't.
It
even follow
wasn't
that
to come
anymore.
up with alternate electors, which had happened in Hawaii previously in the 1960 campaign. That coming up with an alternate slate of electors was not illegal, and it wasn't illegal in Colorado until a few weeks ago when Jenna Griswold and Jared Polis worked to pass that.
And as soon as all the court cases are adjudicated, then those false electors become fake. And the fact that they submitted the documents to National Archives makes it illegal. Also, Jenna pleaded guilty for aiding and abetting false statements and writings. She was charged with racketeering and influencing.
Racketeering.
Yeah. And
racketeering.
And hang on.
Come on, man.
The solicitation and violation of an oath by a public officer. They're felonies. Yeah.
No,
so
I know.
it is
They're
based
reaching.
on... No, they're not.
They're absolutely reaching.
She was involved. She was involved in a conspiracy in order to overturn the election.
No, she was not.
Yes, she was.
No, she was not. She was not involved in a conspiracy to. She floated legal theories about what should be done if there are disputes over the way elections were handled in these states, and she's being prosecuted for that. Meanwhile, Nancy Pelosi goes and calls the election rigged. And no one says a single thing about it.
Can you show me that Nancy
hijacked?
Did Nancy
Hijacked was her
Pelosi
word.
aid and abet anything as far as a process?
Yes, her entire career is aiding and abetting corruption. Come on, you know that.
This is ridiculous.
Tony, I appreciate it. Thanks so much. We've got to get to a break because coming up next, Lauren Boebert. I want to talk to you first about American financing. Despite everything the Fed has been trying, we're still feeling the effects of inflation. Filling up your car, grocery shopping, home repairs, everything is more expensive. And most of you are paying these bills with a credit card. Credit card debt is at an all-time high. If you're a homeowner, there is a way out. You need to call my friends at American Financing. They can put together a plan to pay off that high-interest credit card debt and create meaningful savings for you every month. They're saving people just like you an average of $854 a month and closing in as fast as 10 days. Don't wait. Get yourself into a better position. Call their salary-based mortgage consultants today. It costs nothing to get started. And if you start today, you could delay 2 mortgage payments, giving you greater savings up front. American Financing can help get that monkey off your back. American Financing, 303-695-7000. That's 303-695-7000. AmericanFinancing.net. NMLS 182334, consumeraccess.org. All right, when we return, Representative Lauren Boebert joins us. She was in court with Donald Trump yesterday. We'll ask her all about it. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in Berlin, I'm Trent Murray, and here are the top stories we're following. Donald Trump will be headlining the National Rifle Association's annual meeting this weekend in Texas. It's the 9th time the former president has addressed the gun rights group. Tony Waterman has the details.
Some 75,000 people from across the country are expected to attend this weekend's convention. Former President Donald Trump will give a speech on Saturday afternoon and is expected to pledge to protect gun access in America. But just 2 days later, a new federal regulation is set to close a loophole that had allowed unlicensed dealers to sell firearms without a background check at gun shows and online. This will also be the first time in decades that Wayne LaPierre isn't at the helm of the NRA. The longtime CEO stepped down earlier this year and was found liable of misspending millions of NRA funds.
A man that was reported missing 26 years ago has been found alive in an underground cellar. Algerian man Omar bin Omran first went missing during his country's civil war in the early 1990s. His 65-year-old neighbour has been arrested, accused of keeping Omran as a prisoner in a basement for almost 30 years. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Trent Murray in Berlin on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Joining us on the program is Representative Lauren Boebert. She was with President Trump yesterday in this distraction trial taking place in Manhattan, and she's kind enough to join us. I'm very excited to hear how things were yesterday. She was in the courtroom. Representative Lauren Boebert, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, Bill. I am in D.C. now. We had a hearing last night in the Oversight Committee, and yesterday was quite the event to actually go there and quite the experience to go there and sit in the courtroom with President Trump after the press has been allowed in there to release video or audio or anything like that, and he's under a gag order. So it was really interesting to go and see exactly what's happening in the court that not everybody gets to hear about.
Right. To see a banana republic judicial trial up front, up close and personal. I mean, let's start with the president of the United States, Donald Trump, former president of the United States. How's he doing in the midst of this trial?
He amazes me because he is always above it. All of the attacks that come his way, and he's always happy. We had a group of us that were there yesterday, and he took the time to ask us how we were doing and what things were looking like in our state and how our families were. I was with Congresswoman Ana Paulina Luna, and immediately when he saw her, he asked her about her baby, who is just under a year old, and started telling stories about her pregnancy and like all of this stuff. And so it's just so it's the side of President Trump that the media doesn't allow to go public. He loves people and he loves interacting with people and he loves hosting people. And so I think if there was anything that was bothering him yesterday is that he couldn't spend more time with us just talking and getting to know what was going on in our lives. But in the trial itself, this is political persecution. They are going after him, and they haven't even told him what his crime is. He's been sitting in court now for days, and no crime has come up. Not one person who has approached the witness stand, not one of the prosecutors have accused President Trump of being guilty of any crime whatsoever. Yesterday, Michael Cohen was on the stand, and we'll talk about that. But President Trump is just kind of waiting to see what this is all about, other than the lawfare that we all see.
Do you get a sense from him that he's concerned that he's going to lose this case?
I don't, and I think that even if he were to lose this case, I think that only awakens more Americans to what is happening. I don't think that he's going to lose this case, though, because, like I said, there's not even a crime that's mentioned. So what is he guilty of to lose this trial to? And even in their star witness, Michael Cohen, he is a convicted perjurer. He's a felon. He has lied before Congress. He has lied before judges. This is someone who sat up on the stage yesterday and over again was asked, did you lie about your finances? Did you lie about how you paid Stormy Daniels? Did you lie about the accounts that it came from? Did you lie to your business partner? All of these things. And the answer was yes to everything. Yes, I lied. Yes, I lied. Yes, I lied.
Were you in the courtroom when he was cross-examined, the big one over the phone number and the phone call that took place, and whether or not he was being prank phone called or talking about Stormy Daniels? Were you in the courtroom for that particular exchange?
I was not. No.
So that had taken place. But what was your sense? Did you get to see Michael Cohen on the stand?
Yes.
And what was your sense? What was your gut sense? This is important too. I was noticing this that the jurors aren't allowed to review the transcripts later. They can in certain small increments, but they can't just take the transcripts in whole, because in a court of law, it's really important when it comes down to just kind of how people feel about the entirety of the case. If you were sitting there Looking at Michael Cohen, watching him testify, what would your gut reaction be about him?
Well, I was watching the jurors, and a lot of their faces and the way they were looking at Michael Cohen looked like, why is this our star witness? Why are we listening to this man today? Why is he even here? Because in everything, he was saying that he had lied and that he was a liar. There were audio clips from both his podcast and his TikTok that were played in the courtroom. And the things that this man has said on his podcast are so egregious. I mean, just railing against President Trump with foul language and saying how giddy it would make him to put him behind bars. And he would do everything that he could to make sure that President Trump was behind bars. And so to see someone with a vengeance be in the courtroom as a star witness is, it doesn't really help their case much because the jurors are hearing that as well.
Talking with Representative Lauren Boebert. She was with Donald Trump yesterday in Manhattan for this Trump derailment trial that's taking place up there. Why did you choose? You're very busy. Why did you choose to spend the day up there?
Well, we were going to go on Monday or Tuesday, and we couldn't get coordinated enough to go those days. So we talked to leadership in the House, and we were working to make sure we didn't miss much. Our oversight hearing was scheduled for 8 p.m. So we worked on Thursday, and that was the day to get everything properly scheduled. And we all went up there in support of him. I mean, I would go more often if possible, just so I could get the information back to the American people. But I'm also fine with being out of New York. But it's interesting because there's barricades for 3-5 blocks all around the courthouse, preventing people from getting there. And there's a lot of folks who want to go and support President Trump, and they aren't even allowed to drive near the courthouse because of all the barricades that they have blocking it. And this isn't something President Trump wants. He's asked for that to be removed. But when you have a corrupt judge whose own daughter is making a lot of money, she's raising over tens of millions of dollars, maybe $100 million at this point, on using this trial currently for that fundraising for folks like Adam Schiff.
Oh, sorry, Representative Boebert. But the question I have, though, and I find this unique, the Republicans are choosing to stand by the president. Anybody else that would have been under kind of criminal indictment, right? You'd see, in politics, they'd run away from them as quickly as they could. I don't want to be there. But Republicans are finding it as a point, whether it's Speaker Mike Johnson, Vivek Ramaswamy, vice presidential potential picks, you all, Matt Gaetz, are going up to go, no, we're going to stand with him in this trial. Why is it important? Why is it critical for Republicans to stand together with Donald Trump in this trial?
I believe that this is the most important thing that we could do right now, is just to show that that unity, that we do have his back, that this is not going to move us, that we are not moved by the scare tactics and the attacks that the left bring our way. I said yesterday, if President Trump just went away, all of this would go away. That is what they're wanting. They want him to go right off into the sunset to Mar-a-Lago and never be heard from again. But he has been in the mix for the past 3.5 years since the 2020 election, and he isn't going anywhere. He's going to be back for another 4 years. He's polling great throughout the nation. And the Democrats don't have any good policy or wins that they can actually run on to save their failing presidential candidate. So when inflation is still high, when gas prices are still high, when we have the invasion at the southern border taking place and nothing is being done about it, the fentanyl coming into our nation, people are noticing, and they know that things were different under President Trump. And that's the beauty of Joe Biden and Donald Trump running right now. We have all lived under both presidents, under both presidencies. And so we can evaluate where was my life better. So to stand with President Trump in New York shows that he's not going away, and neither are we. He's fighting for the American people, and we're going to be right by his side as he does it.
I was watching a clip from MSNBC yesterday, and we're talking with Representative Lauren Boebert, who was with President Donald Trump yesterday in the Manhattan courtroom in this sham trial that's taking place up there. MSNBC clip, they go talk to Georgia voters, Black Georgia voters, who said they are tired of watching Donald Trump being bullied by this lawfare that's taking place. Is it your sense, Representative Lauren Boebert, that this is backfiring on the Democrats and that they're scrambling to change right now as the American people watch this lawfare take place, see it as bullying, and they need to change directions?
This has been backfiring from the very beginning. Every time that they go after President Trump with a new indictment, it backfires on them. I mean, even his mugshot photo is something that has backfired on them. That's all they want. They wanted that mugshot photo so bad, Now their next move is to get him in an orange jumpsuit or a striped jumpsuit, and it's not going to happen. The American people see the lawfare. They see how corrupt this is, and that they chose to have this right there in New York, and with a jury pool who likely would not be in favor of President Trump and may have a bias. I do believe that we have some jurors on our side, though. I don't know if this trial has opened their eyes or what. I'm sure hoping that they are seeing what I saw, because I was just in there for a moment for a couple of hours compared to what they've been in there as it's been just a moment, though. And it is so interesting, even the way the judge rules on objections. He doesn't even allow folks to speak up why they are objecting. He's refusing objection with conversation. And so even that part is unlike most hearings that take place. So in all of this, it's something to treat President Trump differently than anyone else who would be in a courtroom. And yes, it is absolutely backfiring all throughout the nation, especially when folks see the crime and corruption that the Democrats are guilty of, especially what we've exposed in the Oversight Committee with Joe Biden and his entire family, and being bribed, taking bribes from foreign nationals, from taking money from the CCP or Russia or Ukraine. All of this has been uncovered, and no one is going after them. We're certainly doing our part in our slim majority to try to hold them accountable, but there's no attorney generals who are going after the Biden family. The DOJ is not directing cases and trials to take place with them. And even as little as, it seems little now, I guess, Joe Biden having classified documents all throughout every place that he's ever been, and President Trump having some as a former president in his home in Mar-a-Lago. He was raided. Joe Biden simply said, "Hey man, don't do this anymore. Can you give those back?" He was a senator. He didn't have any right to take classified documents. So all of the hypocrisy is wide open for the American people to see. And yes, it's backfiring.
Lauren Boebert joined Jeff and Bill this morning. I want to go back to where you were talking about the court and especially the barricades out front. Can you share with the listener some of the sights and sounds that you experienced on that New York street walking into the courthouse? But more importantly, can you talk to us about the cross-section of humanity that is there in that courtroom observing the trial? What did you see about the variety of New Yorkers, though, that are both local and then, like yourself, that came in from out of city in order to sit and watch the Trump trial? What did you see?
So, I saw George Conway sleeping in the courtroom, and I thought that was interesting.
George Conway was in the courtroom?
He sure was.
Yeah,
And
he's got to
so
keep those MSNBC checks coming.
Yep.
Yes. He likes to give President Trump a hard time for resting his eyes, and he had to be woken up once the lady next to him saw that we were observing his slumber. But New York is New York. I think what was reflected outside of the courtroom and inside is exactly what you would see throughout New York. I mean, you have New Yorkers, you have out of towners. I had one woman who was from California, and she approached me and she was in tears. She recognized me. She knew why I was there, and she was happy to see me, happy that someone was standing with President Trump. And then you have the folks who are not so happy. And then I've even seen agitators. I saw agitators yesterday that I have seen at events in Texas and Florida. So, I mean, these folks have made it their job to go where President Trump is and cause a scene.
That's funny. Now, I want to talk to you about that person that came all the way from California. What was the conversation like, and what did they tell you about what President Trump is facing right now in the upcoming election? What was that conversation like? Because she had to travel thousands of miles in order to be there to support Trump. What was it like?
Yes. So this woman didn't make it all the way in the courtroom, but she came to me, and we didn't talk in detail about everything that's going on. Like I said, she approached me. She started crying. She was choked up, having a hard time to find her words. She thanked me for being there and wanted me to thank President Trump. And really, that is something I get all throughout my travels, whether I'm in Colorado, whether I'm in an airport, on my way back to DC or visiting, some other area. I'm always hearing of folks saying, "Tell President Trump thank you," and it's usually an emotional thank you that they're saying. So she told me she was from California, and immediately when she said it, she said, "I know. We're not all like that."
That's great.
We've only got about 1 minute left. Quick pivot here. Representative Lauren Boebert. Are House Republicans going to be able to tie Joe Biden to all the corruption around Hunter Biden? Are we going to see any criminal recommendations coming from House Republicans?
I sure hope so. This is something that I push for on a regular basis. I believe that we should have had far more hearings than we have had in this Congress. And, it's another one of my frustrations from leadership in Washington, D.C. Last night, we did have a hearing to hold Attorney General Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress for not releasing information that he was subpoenaed for. So he has given us the written transcripts of the Joe Biden interviews. We have that transcribed interview, but we do not have the audio. And in the transcripts, there are so many sections that say inaudible. So we want to hear those inaudible moments. We want to hear the verbal cues from those who are questioning him and get a better sense of what is taking place in this interview. And for some reason, that tape has not been released to us. So we voted in committee to hold Merrick Garland in contempt of Congress, and that will go to the House floor. And I do believe that we will get that done there. But I'm glad that we are taking action to show accountability rather than giving another chance to Attorney General Merrick Garland, who has gone after American citizens ever since Joe Biden took office.
Representative Lauren Boebert with President Donald Trump in the Manhattan sham trial yesterday, joining us on the Jeff and Bill Show to tell us and our listeners what that was like. I so appreciate you taking time. I know you're very, very busy. Thanks for being on the program.
Yes. great to be on with you guys. I'll talk to you again soon.
Friends, we'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. That was fun.
That was really fun. I love the fact that she points out that George Conway fell asleep. I'm sorry. For me, that was the highlight of the entire interview because I heard him smack talking Trump about falling asleep. So I love the fact that he did as well. And I'd heard a couple of days ago, there was some guy that showed up really early in the morning to be one of the first of the regular gallery to be in line. Like he shows up something like 3 o'clock in the morning, like when you and I get up.
Right.
And then when he
fell asleep.
Yeah, he fell asleep. Like
Starts snoring.
Yes. I like the intro sometimes.
Look, legal proceedings are boring.
Oh, gosh, yes, they are. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Look, here's why I appreciate it. There's a lot of debate around Lauren Boebert in Congressional District 4, and she's in a competitive primary and all that stuff. But she was in a historic first ever criminal prosecution of a former president of the United States and called to give us and our listeners insight as to what that was like.
Yeah, it was
I
fantastic.
appreciate that. She
Oh,
took
I
time
so
this morning to
appreciate it.
do that.
Yeah, I so appreciate that. And then to get that first person perspective about what it was like to sit in the trial. And she was there to hear Cohen's cross-examination. She was there to experience how the jury reacted. I also like that as far as her impressions of how the jury is reacting, because we all are, I guess you would say, amateur, body, not that, like the idea of how you look and when someone's listening. Are they leaning in? Are they ignoring? Are they rolling their eyes? Are they falling asleep? Stuff like that. And so we all kind of do that. So she was able to give us a first person perspective, and we didn't highlight it for her, but she was in the front row. She had a great seat to observe everything yesterday. So it was really valuable for that conversation to
It's
happen.
weird to me. I was reading this. Washington Post was covering all this, that they're not allowed to look at full transcripts. They can have parts read back to them. And some people take notes, some people don't. So a lot of it comes down to your gut.
Yeah, it worries
at
me.
the end of this.
It would worry me so much if I was looking at a juror not taking notes. That would frighten me.
Really? I don't think I would. Ron Hanks will be up in the 9 o'clock hour. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Eight a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. It is Friday, May 17th, 2024. You tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and the hottest takes from the right, left, center, and sometimes a little crazy. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. Tune into the other station. Someone's going to read you scripted news from some news agency in New York City, or they'll give you a monologue about what they believe. But here the debate happens, and it sure did happen in that first hour. And it happens on the text messages and, most importantly, the phone calls. Give us a call. Share your voice. What do you think about all this? Some people on the text messages, like that Lauren Boebert was up there standing with the president, standing against this lawfare. Others, who's paying for this? Why are you spending your time up there? Shouldn't you be back in Washington, D.C.?
So doing stuff to make your lives better. It was and a good cross section, and we love hearing from all of you. Give us a call too and talk about it.
Phone number 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Let's go check in on the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
TGIF.
Oh, you're here. I just wish there was a Nuggets game tonight. Is there an Avs game tonight?
That's true. Yes, there is. Is that? That's tonight. I have it right here. Let me see. Tonight.
Friday night's the only night where I get to stay up past 8:00.
Right. Exactly. Maybe they could put all the games on Friday night for you. Back to back. Yep, exactly. All right. 60 degrees and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the low 80s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
There's a lot of folks who want to go and support President Trump, and they aren't even allowed to drive near the courthouse because of all the barricades that they have blocking it. This isn't something President Trump wants. He's asked for that to be removed.
Colorado's Lauren Boebert was in the Big Apple Thursday to support former President Trump. She was on with Jeff and Bill last hour, and Boebert said there's a silver lining in the campaign derailment trial.
Even if he were to lose this case, I think that only awakens more Americans to what is happening. I don't think that he's going to lose this case, though, because, like I said, there's not even a crime that's mentioned. So what is he guilty of?
Trump attending his youngest son's high school graduation today. The Denver Police Department will no longer pull over drivers for minor traffic offenses. This includes infractions such as expired tags, driving with a headlight out, or anything that doesn't pose an immediate threat to public safety.
I think there are better ways that we can use our time, focus on those crime prevention efforts.
Police Chief Ron Thomas. The goal of the new policy is to prioritize safety-related traffic offenses and improve public relations. I-70 is open again after a deadly crash involving a tanker truck that shut down the interstate near Morrison Thursday. The driver of the vehicle that crashed into the truck died. Travel and deliveries delayed for hours due to the closure.
Coming back from Arizona, we live in Fort Collins. Just terrible to see such a terrible crash and all the traffic that it caused.
Definitely a horrific accident for sure.
Stephen Long was charged in a road rage homicide on I-25 that happened a year ago. Thursday, family and advocates delivered more than 500 letters to Denver DA Beth McCann's office, urging her not to prosecute him for murder. Long is charged with first-degree murder in the death of Damon Lucas during what police call a road rage shooting. Brothers Damon and Blake Lucas both died in the incident, but the charge in Blake's death was dropped. Governor Polis signed several bills into law Thursday while riding an RTD train from Westminster to Denver. Hopefully he is able to write his signature on there clearly.
Right,
one provides
around.
Right, exactly. That's so fun.
Do you remember trying to do homework in like elementary school, right on the bus?
Yeah, you know what? My dad was he was my teacher, and my brothers and I, one of our teachers, so we would ride with them a lot.
Oh,
We'd
nice.
be doing the homework in the back of the car, the Galaxy 500, no seat belts on, just flying all over the place, doing our science homework for him as he gave us C's. The world's top-ranked golfer, Scotty Scheffler, was detained by a Louisville police officer near the entrance of the PGA Championship this morning. He drove past an accident where one person died. Scheffler was not involved in the accident, but he was placed in handcuffs as he tried to enter Valhalla Golf Club. Police say a shuttle bus struck and killed a pedestrian trying to cross a road outside the club this morning. So,
dude, this is crazy. I'm following this right now because this is all breaking news right now.
Yeah,
so
it's nuts, man.
He shows up at 5:30. This is the number one golfer in the world. Right. Shows up at 5:30. He thinks, this is his claim, he thinks he's being directed by police officers into a different direction.
Yes.
They then stop him and pull him over, pull him out of the car, arrest him, and charge him with things like assaulting an officer.
Wow.
Third-degree criminal mischief, second-degree assault on a police officer, reckless driving, disregarding traffic signals from an officer. This is all at 7:28 this morning. He gets booked. By 9:08, he's back on the tee. And he has like an hour to get ready to play in this PGA golf tournament. This is the number one golfer in the world.
Yeah, that's crazy. And you can see it if you've ever been to golf tournaments. When the International was here, maybe a lot of people have, were part of that in Castle Pines. But I've covered a lot of them. And there's craziness with the traffic. And I could see what happened. You could see what happened. I mean, he's in the vehicle that's given to all the players, and he's just trying to get into the clubhouse, and he's probably thinking the police are signaling him to go. He's probably thinking it's okay. I'm sure he wasn't trying to cause any problems. And it's a tense situation. The police are like, this jerk, what is he doing in his big SUV? And then it snowballs, escalates, and wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
Dude, from what I get, and this is all just new stuff that happened this morning, this was like a total overreaction. Now, I could be wrong.
Sounds like it.
They he may have popped off or maybe even shoved. I don't know. But how you get to second-degree assault of a police officer?
Yeah, I find that hard to believe. I don't know. Hey, I'm trying to get to the golf course. Don't you know there's a golf tournament going? No, I don't.
And to bring that, this seems like an overreaction, and they're going to be scrambling.
It kind of sounds like Barney Fife was involved. That's just what I think of first. But
I'm borrowing this from a wonderful salesman, Mark Anderson, who just came in and said, "Guys, you're missing it. It's he got into all this trouble because he teed off the police officer."
That's Mark always has something good. That's a good one, man. He's been thinking of that. Mark has a punchline for everything.
I think if you're Scheffler here, and like if you're innocent of all this, it's a total overreaction. I can understand, if he was a real jerk and started shoving police officers, disobeying orders, that would be a rightful arrest, of course. But if you're innocent of this and you end up starting your morning by being booked and then having to go play a golf tournament, I hope he cleans up, man. I hope it becomes the greatest story, and he tells this forever. I was booked, mugshot. Within an hour, I was back on the golf course, and I won the day.
Yep. I don't watch a lot of TV, but I did watch the series with the PGA on Netflix, and it was awesome. It was great. I mean, they followed the guys and, like 5 to 10 players. And that would have been so cool if there would have been a camera in there for that whole incident. And they happened to stumble on that. That would have been a great episode. All right. The Timberwolves beat up on the Nuggets last night, 115-70 in Game 6. They'll bring it back Sunday for Game 7. They won last night. Avalanche play host to the Stars tonight. And the Rockies go for 8 straight tonight in San Francisco. Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast, quite warm on this Friday. We're going to see temperatures soar all the way to the mid to upper 80s. Lows tonight near 50. Highs will be a little cooler, but Staying in the 70s Saturday, upper 70s and low 80s Sunday. For Saturday and Sunday, both days could bring a few afternoon and evening thunderstorms. A better chance that we'll see some showers and thunderstorms, and temperatures are going to trend cooler heading into Monday and into the day on Tuesday. I'm meteorologist Don Day on the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Well, life's going to look a little different for all of us here in Colorado come January 1st. If you carry a weapon in your car, well, it's got to be in a locked glove box. Governor Jared Polis, this according to the Denver Post, signed 2 gun reform measures into law Wednesday that will tighten requirements on the storage of firearms in vehicles and bolster funding to investigate gun crimes in Colorado. Rhonda Fields. If you're going to be a gun owner, then we need to make sure we are responsible gun owners. An Aurora Democrat who co-sponsored the vehicle storage bill at a bill signing ceremony. Under House Bill 1348, gun owners must store any firearms kept in their vehicles in locked containers and out of plain view. A locked glove compartment or center console qualifies under the law. Violating the statute is a civil infraction, punishable only by a small fine. The law kicks in January 1st. Other bill sponsors were Democrat Reps Lorena Garcia and Elizabeth Valesco and Senator Sonia Jaquez Lewis. Debate about the new law's penalties had divided House Democrats and some of their colleagues in the Senate, briefly throwing the measure into limbo amid broader disagreements over criminal sanctions. After a House committee killed a bill to tighten penalties on firearm thefts, Senate Democrats amended the vehicular storage measures to tack on some of the dead bill's elements. But the House rejected that idea, and the bill's Democrat sponsors eventually settled on a civil infraction provision. The measure was part of Democrats' broader gun reform efforts this year. Shortly before Polis signed House Bill 1348 on Wednesday, he also inked Senate Bill 3, which directs more than $1.4 million to the Colorado Bureau of Investigations. Most of that money will go towards investigating illegal gun sales. The intent of the bill, supporters said, was to ensure that other gun reform measures, including a ban on high-capacity magazines, were being adequately followed. Our bill is really about enforcement, an Inglewood Democrat said on Wednesday. And really, the enforcement piece is the culmination of decades of work on gun violence prevention. She sponsored the bill with fellow Democrats, Senator Tom Sullivan and House Minority Leader Monica Duran. I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, it's like one of those things where I'm like, all right, well, I guess the Democrats feel better. I understand that most gun thefts come from cars, though.
Yeah, and in the last decade, they have tripled. And that is actually the number one way that guns are stolen right now. And so I would say that, if we're worried about keeping our guns safe and we don't want them to be in the hands of the criminals, because we always talk about, hey, if we outlaw the guns, then the criminals will have guns. Well, if we prevent them from possibly getting a hold of the guns in the first place, we don't need to outlaw them. So this, for me, seems to be a step in the right direction. And this is only because, and I hate to bring this up, that there are technologies out there, the RFID chips and the idea of even fingerprint scanners that would prevent anybody who takes your gun, whether it be someone that lives in your house or someone that's a criminal or takes it out of your truck or your car, from being able to use that gun. But we don't want those technologies implemented. So then we probably need to take steps to prevent the firearms from being taken in the first place. And wonderfully, now I want to say that the fact that we are seeing an increase in firearms being stolen from cars tells me that as gun owners, we are being very, very responsible with them in our houses. We are keeping them in a situation, probably under lock and key, that makes them very, very difficult for the criminals to come in and take them. It is much easier for them to smash the window on the car than it is to smash the window in your home and get access to the firearm. And so the criminal behavior for me is telling us where the weakness in the process is. They're no longer being concerned about what we're doing in the house. They're not going after that. They're not going into the basement and finding and storing all the shotguns. They're not going to go through the closet or the dresser or wherever else people usually keep their guns. They're going to the car, knowing that they're probably going to be unsecured there. So if we want to keep our Second Amendment rights as close to what they are right now as we want to, we probably need to implement a little bit more personal security. Because if they continue to be stolen, you know what the Democrats are going to do. They're going to take them.
So here's what I'm trying to understand about this, and I'm reading through the bill here. Yeah. Does it have to be locked up all the time?
Well, the question I would have would be is, when you're driving, how often do you need to fire at other individuals or people or steal or anything else? I'm just curious about that.
Some gun owners, and I've seen this, at least it's advertised to me on Instagram and stuff like that all the time, is this ability to store the handgun on a magnetic clip underneath the steering wheel column. So if you're getting carjacked, for instance, right? That would be the scenario. You're driving along and someone comes up to the window and points a gun at you. Hold on a second. Let me get the key and unlock the little middle console to get this is cha-ching, and then you're able to get in the fight that way. It seems to be that I'm looking through the bill here, and correct me if I'm wrong, you pretty much have to have this locked up at all the time. So a person shall not knowingly, leave a handgun. So leave.
So my guess would be that while you are having your hands on the steering wheel and you're in the car with the key in the ignition, having it on your hip, on your side, or even the magnetic holster you were talking about would be okay. This would be leaving the car afterwards, because I'm guessing that's where the thefts are happening. The people aren't approaching a motorist on the street and saying, give me your guns. What they're doing is they're running down the sidewalk.
Or they're Phil Weiser's stolen car. That's why we have so many of these stolen, because we allow people to steal 3 cars and they're going through and getting what they want.
Remember what Professor Phil says. It's not because they're going out there to do crimes, it's because they're sleeping in them. And that if you were just a better person, Jeff, you would leave the windows down in your car and the keys in the ignition, because then you're caring about these people. But I disagree with that conclusion.
Good question here, 9884. What about when you go hunting? My shotgun won't fit in a glove box. So it says that in this bill, a person, they have a few qualifications here.
Yeah, what are
they? If you live on a farm or a ranch, okay, you don't need to lock it up.
Oh, wonderful.
A person who lives in a vehicle or in a recreational vehicle in which the firearm is stored, a person who lives in the vehicle or recreational vehicle must store the firearm in the vehicle or recreational vehicle in accordance with the storage requirement described above.
See our conversation earlier about Phil Weiser and living in the cars. So, so literally, if you leave your gun in the car, the person can steal the car. I'm like, look, now my gun. And since I live here, I don't have to store it.
A peace officer, so you don't have to lock it up if you're a peace officer, and a person who holds a valid resident or out-of-state hunting license who is engaged in lawful hunting activities.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So if you're on your way up to go hunting,
you're probably fine.
You're
and again,
okay.
You're in the car. Here's the question I would have, though, for the person talking about going hunting. This is the big question I have about this. And do I think this is how they're going to pinch people and charge them with this? No. But is it a concern? Okay. Jeff, you and I are going hunting. We're going out. We're going to go get pheasant out in eastern Colorado. Okay. We go out. We have a long day hunting. We're walking the fields. It's been a long day. We got a couple. It's been a good day. We're now driving back home. We're going to stop at a truck stop and get some food and some nourishment. What do we do with the shotguns?
You need to lock them up in a soft, in a soft case.
That's the issue.
That's the law now.
Yeah. And the thing for me is lock them up in a soft case because what?
Scissors they can cut through.
I mean, we've outlawed the scissors and the X-Acto knives and other Bowie knives. And we were talking about the Swiss Army knife, and you choose the news. Right? Just Swiss Army knife that thing open. The idea is soft case. We're not even talking about putting a trigger lock on there. No. I mean, that's the idea is there's a huge flaw in this because you and I are stopping back from that day of hunting. Of course, our shotguns are going to be in the car, and it's going to be very hard to secure them. And in a soft case, please, if a soft case is a secure way to store any firearm inside of a car, Is it okay for me to store it that way in my house? No.
So
no,
here
it is not.
We got a lot of good text messages here. 4944. Gun storage law is stupid. Good luck with enforcement. I can't see a situation where you get caught unless you're committing a crime and a cop searches your car. I think this is going to be a tack-on penalty, ironically, to people who have their cars stolen. So you're
absolutely right.
You're going to get your car stolen, and you're going to get charged with a crime.
Wait a minute. Hang on a sec. Let me take this in a different direction. I just thought of something based on that. What does this do? And I'd be curious about the texture, and I'd be curious about you, Jeff. What does this do to your likelihood of reporting the gun stolen?
Right,
now, this is what I mean. So,
well,
Jeff,
and you in this, you get in trouble if you don't.
Yeah. So here's the idea. So I have my gun in my car. It's at a friend's house, buddy's house. You know,
it's
and
a
again,
really good question.
I'm inside. Car is broken into. My gun's stolen. When I call that police officer, do I report it, knowing that now I'm exposing myself for
People
crime?
will roll the dice and hope it's never used in a crime that gets traced back to them.
110%. I agree with you.
That's what they'll do. They'll just go, meh.
And then is this, and again, ready, everybody, make sure that you have your shot glasses out because it's time to do the drinking game. Then functionally, drink. Does this fix the problem? It's not going to fix the problem of keeping the weapons necessarily out of the criminal's hands, and we won't know they even have them at this point in certain areas. This could make this problem worse because the person that has their firearm stolen can now be less likely to even report it missing.
First time texter here, 3917. Is there an alternative to carrying a handgun in the car if you don't have a locking glove box or center console? Yeah, you're going to have to get a lock for the gun. I mean, they make these little cases. We have them. That's like a little code that opens up.
Yep.
Right.
And that's the weird thing is, so it's a little lock box. It looks like almost like the old ammo boxes they had in the military, as kind of thing. It's a little tiny safe, which again, what I want about that is that now you've just made it easy for the criminal to take the case and then go back to their hideout and open it up later. I mean, it's like the portable safes in your house. You're like, I'm going to put all my documents in this portable safe. That's and Jeff Foxworthy talked about this, that one year for a gift, his wife gave him a portable safe. And she's like, so you want to make sure that the bad guys can take all the stuff with them and then unload it at their convenience back at the house? He's like, wait a minute. Hang on here. Same thing here. The bad guys are just going to take the case with them. I mean, come on. We figured this out in 30 seconds. Yes, and we're not geniuses.
Rob, Knoxville, Tennessee.
Hey,
Billy, I think the decrease in stealing guns from homes is more likely to be caused by an increase in homeowners who have guns. So the criminals are less interested in breaking and entering because they realize they're more likely to be shot there.
I appreciate that. But yeah, go ahead.
Unfortunately, the new bill will likely be a first step towards a more onerous version with increased penalties for the gun owner. Don't be fooled by what the libs are saying.
Oh, yeah, I can agree with a lot of that. The only thing I would say is that the break-ins, when the people come in and steal the guns, normally happen when the homeowners are not there. Same thing inside the car. You don't break into the car when the guy's there.
Right.
So you're going to break into the house when the homeowner's not there. So I still think, and again, I have no facts to back this up, but I believe the reason that we are seeing less home break-ins in order to go after the guns is because it is easier. Again, path of least resistance. It is much easier for me to break into the car and get the gun, and much quicker than for me to break into the house. House is larger. I have to find the guns and then hope they're not secured. It is much easier for me to break into the car because chances are 90% or above that gun is not secure. That's what I think it is personally.
This is a great text, 9884. If you can get past the dog in the truck, you earn that gun.
I like that. I agree with that 110% because I firmly believe that are the absolute best security system on the planet. Absolutely.
So if your car is running, here's another text message, 3300 is, so if your car is running and gets stolen, the car owner is the criminal and gets charged. It's the same mindset.
Yeah, and because it's the idea of a crime of opportunity. It's the same reason that if you have a swimming pool and you do not put signs up around there, that if someone gets in there into your backyard, even jumping your fence and gets into your backyard and gets injured or dies, you can be held liable, especially in your homeowner's policy, because you did not give adequate notice or adequate signage for the nuisance. possibility. Yes, it's a BS law. Same reason that without adequate care when you have a party at your house, if someone drinks too much and then falls down the stairs and breaks their ankle, you can be held liable. Same thing. It is a silly thing in the law. But yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right on that, Texter.
I am a little confused here, Bill.
Yeah, normally it's my fault, but yes.
We have the most libertarian governor in all America,
Yes.
according to both his self-proclamations
Oh, I like
as
where you're
well
going.
as Reason magazine.
I like this.
There is not a single gun bill that has gotten to his desk that he has vetoed.
That's weird. That's
not a single gun restriction bill.
That's weird because that's not really
is this how,
libertarian thing.
yeah, it's just I thought libertarians are kind of like, mount up.
Oh, yeah.
Pack it up. Let's go. Get all the guns and bullets you can.
How many times have you talked to that libertarian purist? They're like, well, just legalize all the drugs. Then we'll figure it out. How many times have you heard that? And you're absolutely right that our very libertarian governor somehow not so libertarian on the gun issue. That's weird, huh? That's weird. I wonder if anybody is going to be bright enough as you are to bring that up when he decides to run for the presidency. I wonder. I'm not going to hold my breath.
Here's a good one from 4944. My locked glove box is so secure a butter knife could open it.
That's an excellent point too, because if your car is more than, I'd say, 20 years old, it's fairly easy to get into those glove boxes. And you've got some of those cars, you've got 2-tiered glove boxes. One of them doesn't have a lock on it. And I know about this because of the cars that we have. But I also do speak with knowledge about how easy it is to break into the glove box because my wife did it one day to one of her old cars and did it with not necessarily a butter knife, but a kitchen knife. So yeah, not too hard. Not too hard.
I lock it up if you have to. My family members were asking me about this.
Yeah.
They heard about it. When does this kick in? Not till January 1st.
Yeah, get some time.
Is one of the results is that people are just going to keep guns on them now? They'll just keep it on them.
That'll be it, yeah, because, but again, the idea of leave it in your car, I mean, weren't you worried about it being stolen to be,
right.
I'm just thinking that this law for me is focused on the smaller portion of irresponsible gun owners, because the large majority of people, everyone that I know that is a gun owner, even our families, very, very responsible, and they would know, you know what? Leaving this gun sitting here in the car, probably not a good idea. And they'll take it with them. Again, I'm assuming that the reason they have it in their person on them in the car in the first place is because they have concealed carry or they have training or they have a license.
Right.
They have a reason to have it. It's not just like going to the grocery store, got to bring the gun. We're not Wild West in it here.
And this is really important. I've seen this done very well on some Instagram accounts on how to deal with police if you have concealed carry or if you have a weapon in your car.
Yeah, that is important.
So step one, roll down your windows.
Yep.
Turn the dome lights on and put your hands up to the far upper left side.
Yeah.
And then when the police officer and I've actually really appreciated this. I've seen some inner city black guys create Instagram accounts on how to educate primarily young black men on how to deal with police so you don't get shot.
Yeah,
right? Because nobody wants that. So it's good for everybody to know this. Put your hands up on the upper left side, and when you're approached, immediately tell the officer that there is a weapon either on your hip or in the car. Tell them where it is. And what I've often seen police officers do when they record these is just, so long as you don't show me yours, I won't show you mine.
Yep, exactly.
I'm not even going to take it.
Yep.
Thank you for telling me where it is. I'm here for a traffic infraction. We're going to deal with that. I'm not even going to address the gun in your car.
And once you say something about having the firearm, do not move.
Right.
Do not move a muscle. And here's the reason why, is you have your hands out and they should be out the left. And if you can get them out the left window, it's even better.
Yes,
because
that's right.
The officer can see your hands walking up to that car. Put yourself in the officer's position. Those traffic stops are incredibly dangerous.
That's right.
And the time in which it is the most dangerous is when they're approaching the vehicle, because that is the time in which they have the least information about what is going on inside that passenger and driver compartment. So you need to give them as much information as possible. Your hands out the window, they can see you can't move. But the last thing you do is say, officer, I have a gun in the glove box.
And
Let
here
me
it
show
is.
you. Because as soon as you make that move, he is going to make an assumption. based on your behavior and what the conclusion could be, and he needs to keep himself safe so things can go wrong.
They should teach this in driver's ed. I don't think
God,
they do.
yeah, should they? No, they should. They don't. They
Right?
don't.
They don't.
They really should.
Turn the lights on, obey the officer. Because here's the other thing that I've watched, primarily these urban social media influencers try to teach. If you have a beef with the police, you don't like the way you're treated, that cop is racist, whatever it is, you fight that battle in a court of law.
Yeah.
You don't fight it on the street right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The time in which to register the complaint is not at that moment.
Right.
That is not the time. And I keep going back to, and again, good friend of mine, Reggie Rivers, I keep going back to the advice that his father gave him. And his father, longtime Air Force man, he said the only time he ever saw his father shook is when they were pulled over by a police officer. And this is back in the days when we were coming out of civil rights and everything else. And so it's understandable. And he asked his dad later about it. And he said, the reason is, son, in that moment, regardless of the police officer being right or wrong, the law is what they say it is. Anything that is wrong, I can deal with afterwards. But in that moment, that's how it works. And Reggie went, damn. That kind of sucks, but that's really and this is regardless of skin color. That's the issue. And I was a little bit of a weird looking kid, and I had my own issues with police officers at times. I'd been pulled over just for driving through the wrong neighborhood a couple of times because I didn't look like I belonged there, which was weird for me being the white kid. And looking back on it, I said a couple of things I really shouldn't have. There was a time in which the officer had pulled me out and was asking why I was in this neighborhood, and it was 10 o'clock at night and blah, blah, blah. And I asked him, I said, are you going to give me a ticket or arrest me? Because if not, I'm getting back in the car and I'm going to leave. And he goes, you don't talk to me that way. And I said, sir, arrest me, give me the ticket, or I'm getting back in the car. And he looked at me and he cursed at me and then turned around and went back to his patrol car.
You were lucky.
Retrospect.
You were lucky.
Oh, yeah. In retrospect, phenomenally stupid. But again, this reinforces the narrative that pops up on the show. Just like my father told me all the time, I had an underdeveloped sense of fear.
Yes. No, we definitely did.
Happened.
And George talks about that too, how stupid, especially teenage boys are together when they get together.
Oh, God,
we used to, there was a Mormon church in our neighborhood where cops would go and sleep.
Yeah.
So we would sneak up on their car at like 2 a.m. and bang on the car and then take off running just to see what they would do.
Oh, wow. And the thing is, I'd do that with you. I'd be right there with you.
No harm, no foul.
Yeah, exactly.
How about you don't sneak up on the cops at 2 a.m?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's start there.
Yeah. Let's talk about the decision-making process at the beginning of this fun prank. That's fantastic.
Good text message here, 5637. We're not black, and we've taught my children how to respond to police. Don't make them afraid they're not going home.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really, really good filter to have them understand and empathize with what the cop is going through at that point. It's good. 3,300.
I'm risking the dice by reading this, but I treat my pistol like I do another part of my body. I don't talk about it and I don't show it unless I tend to use it.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, there's not a lot you can do until the courts overturn this.
Yeah.
So January 1st, you've got to figure out a way to get this locked.
Yeah, you know.
It's got to be in a locked trunk. So here, let me read the bill to you.
Okay.
Secure.
Before you do that, I want to go back to the previous text message. I'm sorry, but it's a callback.
Please.
Hope you guys, it really puts a twist on that phrase from Blazing Saddles when Cleavon Little shows up at the town of Rock Ridge and says, excuse me while I whip this out. Same thing there, texter. Same thing.
Secure firearm storage in a vehicle. Penalty definition. A person shall not knowingly leave a handgun in an unintended vehicle unless the handgun is in a locked, hard-sided container that is placed out of plain view, including a locked container that is permanently affixed to the vehicle's interior, and the container is in any of the following: a locked vehicle, the locked, trunk of a locked vehicle, or a locked recreational vehicle is defined at later subsection. A person shall not knowingly leave a firearm that is not a handgun in an unintended vehicle unless this firearm is in a locked hard-sided or locked soft-sided container, including a locked container that is permanently affixed to the vehicle's interior, and the container is any of the following: a locked vehicle, the locked trunk of a vehicle, a locked recreational vehicle.
Trunk's a good solution.
Yeah.
Trunk's pretty easy. Yeah, if you don't want to buy the box, that's a pretty easy solution.
So, This will get clear as we get a little bit closer, but Jared Polis signed that in. And it's going to be a law January 1st. So invest in car lock containers.
Yeah.
Gun lock containers.
Yeah.
Good place to invest in those now.
Or when you leave the house and leave the car, if you have the concealed carry permit, just keep it with you. Be easier that way, because then you're certain that nobody can get into that car and take that firearm because you've got it with you. And again, I'm assuming that the reason that you are taking it with you is either you're going hunting or you do have that kind of a permit. If you're carrying your gun around with you and you don't have those, I got some questions, but that's okay.
Here's something that's interesting. Our listeners from Nebraska, in the state of Nebraska, if you tell them you have a firearm, you will get out. They cut you until they run you and check everything out. The first thing they'll do is put you in cuffs. Huh.
Ooh.
A little stricter in Nebraska.
Oh, wow. I'm
Protecting the
surprised
cops.
based on that too. Yeah.
By the way, on this note, on police officers, Monday,
what?
We're going to host the sheriff from Cheyenne,
It's so
who
cool.
put up the billboard recruiting police from Denver, basically saying, hey, we actually enforce our laws up here and protect our law enforcement.
And the message in the billboard is spot on. As far as
Brilliant.
marketing, it is
Brilliant.
really, really good.
I
Really
was
good.
talking to a former DPD yesterday, and he basically said to me, I got out when the leadership of the DPD told me to turn on my body camera when checking on homeless.
Yeah.
And if that homeless person died later that night, they were going to review my body camera and possibly hold me liable for their death.
Oh, geez.
Here you have people that are addicted to drugs who you can't just throw into your car because then that's police, brutality and harassment and do all that stuff. But if they die because they're being stupid and living outside in the cold, addicted to drugs, and they're going to walk through how you did the welfare check, holy cow.
Yeah.
That plus the fact you can be held personally liable now as a police officer.
Yeah. The thing for
I
me,
don't get why people do it.
The thing for me is that, and I can see the draw, especially looking into Denver, because you're talking about a large urban population center that's dealing with, especially a lot of homeless, a lot of immigration issues, and a lot of funding issues. And you don't have those same issues in Wyoming. Plus, it's a different lifestyle, different cost of living. If you're a Denver police officer and you and your significant other are looking at, gosh, maybe we've got maybe a kid on the way. We're worried about funding in Denver and, can't buy a house.
Right.
Maybe Wyoming is super sexy at this point because of the affordability and because of the lifestyle. And I think it is a great marketing campaign.
We're on the losing end of it.
Yep. Yeah.
But you can objectively look at that
absolutely.
as good.
And again, what I'm looking for is its competition. Is if DPD wants to keep the best and the brightest, then you need to make the better case than having them go to Wyoming. And that includes all of the issues that include both them showing up for the job, but also what's going on at home afterwards and how they can afford their lifestyle. Yes, I appreciate the competition because in theory, this should get the DPD to focus more on retention of the officers and recruitment. Absolutely.
I want to talk to you about my friends at Mountain High Appliance. Hurry in now and check out their Get the Look sales event. Now, for a limited time, you can receive up to a $3,000 rebate. $3,000, guys, with the purchase of a select GE Cafe appliance. Enjoy Mountain High Appliance price match guarantee. They'll match it, guys. Why you got to go anywhere else? And special financing offers. See store for details and experience the difference at one of Mountain High Appliance's 4 locations in Denver at East 64th, Littleton, Louisville, and Glenwood Springs. Coming up in just a few minutes, Ron Hanks joins us. It's going to be a rumble with him and Bill. We know it. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Berlin, I'm Trent Murray, and here are the top stories we're following. It's day 2 of Russian President Vladimir Putin's visit to China, the leader heralding the growing friendship between Moscow and Beijing. Laura Westbrook has the details.
Russian President Vladimir Putin wrapped up his trip to China with a visit to the northeastern city of Harbin, and his focus turned to trade. He said that energy cooperation between the two countries would only continue to grow. Bilateral trade has reached a record $240 billion last year, and Putin will want to see that economic support continue. But Beijing is under growing pressure from the United States for supplying dual-use technologies that can end up on the battlefield. The US has sanctioned Chinese firms with Russian links and is threatening to sanction Chinese banks.
United Airlines says it's been given the all clear by the FAA to start adding new aircraft and routes to its network. In a note to staff, United said federal regulators had given the green light to restarting certification activities, including new aircraft and routes, following months of additional oversight in the wake of several safety incidents. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Trent Murray in Berlin on Salem News Channel.
loudest opening team walk ovation he's probably ever gotten. A loud Scotty chants is breaking out. Free Scotty, one man yells. You look great in orange. Another one yells.
Oh, God.
But here's what some of the other golf guys are saying.
Yeah.
So bizarre hearing the Scotty Scheffler chaos. This is crazy. We as players at multiple tournaments every year are told during traffic around the venue to put our hazards lights on and proceed to the venue. This is a simple misunderstanding. Clearly, all will be dropped in the end. Hope he goes on and plays well now today.
Yeah, and there are procedures in place. And Blake Olson in the news department was talking earlier about the international. And I've worked the back end of the international in food service a number of times. And there are special rules for getting around the traffic. Yeah. And there were rules for participants and there were rules for delivery service drivers. And that's what I was under as a delivery service driver in order to get the food out onto the courses. And there were rules about getting around the traffic. And part of it was the hazards and getting the attention of the officer. And I can absolutely assure you that Scheffler probably wasn't driving, but his driver was thought they were waved through. Thought that, hey, put my hazards on, and I know. And it's just like there's a person that I'm not going to out them right now in Denver radio, longtime radio host here, that talked about he was doing advertisements for a particular company that would come out and help if your car was broken down, etc. And one day his car broke down and they came right out there and he goes, wow, you don't have to treat me like this just because I do the ads. And the person's like, sir, I have no idea who you are. I'm just here because you called. And he's like, what? Same thing. So the assumption, I'm assuming that Scheffler made was, they're doing this because they know who I am, not thinking the cop might not know who I am. So this is it's going to be a total overreaction. And the police officer in charge is going to have a talk with the sergeant.
Yes.
Absolutely. They're going to have a talk with the sergeant.
There's a mea culpa possibly coming. We don't know. Maybe he did get into a fight but the idea that the number one golfer in the world would somehow put hands on an officer,
now here's the
that's
thing.
A little crazy.
Here's the thing. Now, if I'm part of Scotty Scheffler's team, I am doing everything I can right now to shop Amazon and Party City to find an orange jumpsuit Halloween costume. And I want him in that costume by noon today, because that's what I would do. If I was Scotty, I would be out on the course in the jumpsuit just because think about the pictures. Think about what is everybody going to take a picture there? What are they going to share? What are they going to share? And what are the people of the tournament going to talk about? The fact that you show up in the prison jumpsuit. Come on.
So I've told this story one time before, but the time I messed with Barack Obama's motorcade.
Oh, really? Hey, I like this.
Yeah.
You have my attention, sir.
So we were at DU. I was working for the Romney campaign, and we were asked to bracket Barack Obama. Okay, so bracketing is what a campaign does to try to throw somebody off.
Yeah.
It's paid agitators, it's protesters, it's, all the stuff. Everything's AstroTurf out there anyways when it comes to this. And Lauren Boebert talked about it. She's like, I see the same people out there, these paid agitators.
I love that she brought that in.
Yeah.
We were talking about being with the Trump and
so
court case in New York.
The college Democrats, for the first debate here at DU between Romney and Obama, the college Democrats were going to host a rally in the middle of DU. And we're like, well, let's not do that. Let's go host an alternate rally and try to mess with Barack Obama as he's driving in, and not mess in any violent way, but just try to get in his head.
Yeah.
So we figured out where his hotel was. And do you remember this? They blocked off all of I-25.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yep.
So they brought in the big snowplows, blocked off I-25. And so we tried to guess which direction he was coming. And so we figured he was going northbound from the south, getting off at the university exit off of I-25, and then going into the Ritchie Center.
Yep.
So we lined the exit all the way with Romney signs. Okay. Nice. And then when he turned, as he turned under I-25, he was met with 250 college Republicans, all with signs 6 inches from his motorcade. Yeah. Right? Like right there. Romney, Romney, all that stuff. And I think we threw him a little bit off his game because he lost that debate.
Yeah.
So I take credit for that.
You should. And I like that because being a soccer fan, people will know that in big international matches, that is exactly what the home fans do. The home fans, literally, they'll try to find out where the away team is staying, and they will make phone calls late at night to see if they can find them. And
wake them up at night.
And the number one thing is light off fireworks outside and honk horns and make sure they can't get sleep. Yes. And then the other part is this: there is an intimidation factor. And again, soccer fans, we do it differently. And so the idea being, and these aren't everyday matches. These are the big international matches and the big ones. When the away team their bus, which is of course branded or rented, has to make the path all the way to the stadium. The super fans will line the path all the way, and they will be there with road flares, with signs, chanting and screaming. And usually by the time you get about a block away from the stadium, there is so much smoke from the road flares that you can't see.
Wow.
And it is really intimidating.
Just to
walking
intimidate.
into that. Yeah, the
That
idea
is
is
cool.
you're going in. Oh yeah, it is a nightmare. And so many players go, yeah, it's scary. It really does get in your head because you're sitting there going, these people are crazy.
And in those motorcades for those presidential campaigns, they don't have enough staff to drive them. So they rely upon the staff in the state to help drive them. And I would offer it to my brother all the time. I'd be like, hey, you want to drive in the Romney motorcade?
Oh, yeah.
Be sure. And I remember we were out there, bracketing Obama and all that stuff. And then Romney's motorcade comes by and I watched my brother's silhouette as he was driving.
Oh my God. Okay. Talk about motorcades. This is just a total side tangent. A total side tangent. Do you remember World Youth Day, 1993 here in Denver?
Cherry Creek State Park.
Yes. My dad was in the Pope's motorcade. He was one of the drivers.
That is cool.
Didn't drive the Pope. He was in one of the cars behind him.
Those are so cool.
Yeah. And now here's the cool part about it. He got to go to a lot of the behind the scenes things. In fact, and we still have them. Some of these pictures have been published, but my dad has one of a kind pictures of Camp St. Malo and Pope John Paul II there. Pictures that nobody else has and nobody else had access to or could see.
Cool.
And so some of those have been published because of that. But it was this one experience that he was, within touching distance of the pontiff on a number of times. But yeah, he was in that motorcade.
That is awesome. All right. Ron Hanks coming up in the 9 o'clock hour. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
The police report for Scotty Scheffler just coming out. This isn't good.
Uh-oh, what?
The detective that tried to stop him was drugged to the ground by his car, suffered pain, swelling, abrasions to the left wrist and knee, and was transported to the hospital.
That's not good.
Not good at all. All right, we'll continue to follow the story. Ron Hanks up next. Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Nine a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. It is Friday, May 17th. The sun is shining. It's a beautiful day in Colorado. And it is Friday, baby. The party begins. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, center, and sometimes a little crazy. That depends on where you stand. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour that you're definitely not going to want to miss. Friend of the show, Ron Hanks, is going to join us, and we'll have an interesting conversation diving in to important issues, critical discussions, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab your coffee, Denver, pick up the phone, call us 303-696-1971, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Let's start with Blake Olson's news. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning. Wow, you just never know what's going to happen. 64 and sunny in Denver, expecting highs in the low 80s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
Scotty, any comments on what happened to you this morning? Morning, Marty.
I couldn't hear what if he did say anything to that's Marty Smith, who's up there at the front of the clubhouse.
The best golfer in the world, Scotty Scheffler, had no comment as he walked into the clubhouse at the PGA Championship in Louisville this morning. He was detained by a police officer near the entrance of Valhalla this morning. He drove past an accident where a pedestrian was hit and died. He was not involved in the accident, but was placed in handcuffs and detained. They took a mugshot. This after he was charged with second-degree assault, reckless driving, and other minor offenses. I think you may have a little more, huh, Jeff?
Yeah, they're saying that he drug a cop.
Oh, he did?
With his car. Wow. To the point where the detective suffered pain, swelling, abrasions to his left wrist and knee, was transported to the hospital for further medical treatment by emergency medical personnel, and that the police officer's pants were damaged beyond repair.
Oh, man.
So this thing could get a lot more serious.
Keep an eye on this one this weekend. Wow. So it's the second round of the PGA Championship, and that continues tomorrow and Sunday. We expect that to happen. We expect to see him playing. So who knows? We'll see what happens. Colorado's Lauren Boebert was in the Big Apple Thursday to support former President Trump. She was on with Jeff and Bill last hour, and Boebert said there's a silver lining in the campaign derailment trial.
Even if he were to lose this case, I think that only awakens more Americans to what is happening. I don't think that he's going to lose this case, though, because, like I said, there's not even a crime that's mentioned. So what is he guilty of?
Trump attending his youngest son's high school graduation today. The Denver Police Department will no longer pull over drivers for minor traffic offenses. This includes infractions such as expired tags, driving with a headlight out, or anything that doesn't pose an immediate threat to public safety.
I think there are better ways that we can use our time. Focus on those crime prevention efforts.
Wait, hang on a sec here. They're not going to stop you for the minor traffic offenses anymore, right?
Right.
Okay. Can
Correct.
Okay, this is what hurts my head. And maybe you two can help me with this one. Why would you tell people? Why would you announce and go, hey guys, here's something we're not going to stop you for anymore? Again, if you were going to tell your kids, you know what, we're no longer going to see how late you stay up at night. What do you think is going to happen? Okay, I don't care they're not doing this anymore, but why in the hell would you tell us? Have you met us? Have you seen the stupid decisions we make daily?
Speaking of billboards, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's make a huge billboard. You can do whatever the heck you want to do in Denver.
Exactly. Is there a movie called The Purge like this?
Yeah,
you just
so.
do whatever you want.
Yes, for 24 hours. Yeah, same thing.
It's so frightening.
Again, I understand why they're not doing it. I don't agree with it, but still, why are you telling the people? Why you're like, hey, guess what? You're not going to be prosecuting you for anymore. Why would you ever do that? This is our government in action. This is government in action.
I want police to be safe.
Yes,
but man. This is just, it's nuts.
It's really dumb. You don't tell the criminals what you can get away with now. That's
Hello.
Dumb.
Hello. I-70 is open again after a deadly crash involving a tanker truck shut down the interstate near Morrison Thursday. The driver of the vehicle that crashed into the truck died. Travel and deliveries delayed for hours due to the closure.
Coming back from Arizona, we live in Fort Collins. Just terrible to see such a terrible crash and all the traffic that it caused.
Definitely a horrific accident for sure.
The House has passed a bill that would prevent President Biden from withholding weapons to Israel. The Republican move is in response to Biden's decision to pause a shipment of bombs to Israel due to concerns over a full-scale military operation in Rafah. The bill is not likely to advance in the Senate, and Biden said he would veto it. Man, I had some really good sound regarding kicker Harrison Butker for you guys, and I can't find it right now. So
dude, he is winning this.
Yes,
he is
yes,
absolutely
he
winning
is.
this. I saw the daughter of the Chiefs owner on Fox News this morning going, I'm so glad my mom was a stay-at-home mom.
Right.
And I listened to the entire speech on the way in this morning. I'm
Did
not
you?
Roman Catholic. I have theological differences, obviously. I'm not Roman Catholic with his perspective, but that was one of the best commencement speeches I've heard in a long time. And I was forced to listen to a lot of them working for a university. That was great. I'm so glad he spoke into culture. And it just goes to show just how backwards our culture is, where that's offensive. Like Flavor Flav, for instance, yesterday was lambasting the kicker, Harrison Butker's speech. Flavor Flav has 8 kids with 4 different women, had a crack cocaine addiction, and had felony charges for threatening his own son with a knife. And yet culture is like, well, Harrison Butker's a problem.
I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because Jason Whitlock kind of talked about that subject, and he was outstanding, because one of these ladies, I can't remember what her name was, but pushing back on it, talking about gun violence. It's the gun's fault and all that. And this is what Jason Whitlock said.
Oh my God, white racist lawmakers are giving black kids guns, and that's why they shoot each other. Let's talk about that. No, let's talk about the fact that the family structure has been destroyed. Young men and young women are not being properly discipled by 2 parents in their home.
Yeah, it's
amen.
Really
Preach.
No, that's good stuff. All right, you guys have a great weekend. 59 in Lafayette, 61 in Englewood, 64 in Denver. T-Wolves and the Nuggets, Game 7 on Sunday, because Minnesota won big last night, of course, 115-70. The Avs play host to the Stars tomorrow night, or tonight, that is. Stars and Avs tonight in Game 6. And then if they win, they'll force a Game 7. And the Rockies go for 8 straight tonight in San Francisco. Jeff and Bill continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The 710 5-day forecast, quite warm on this Friday. We're going to see temperatures soar all the way to the mid to upper 80s. Lows tonight near 50. Highs will be a little cooler, but staying in the 70s Saturday, upper 70s and low 80s Sunday. For Saturday and Sunday, both days could bring a few afternoon and evening thunderstorms. A better chance that we'll see some showers and thunderstorms, and temperatures are going to trend cooler heading into Monday and into the day on Tuesday. I'm meteorologist Don Day on the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Man, I'm excited about this interview. This is going to be a fun one. Over the week, Ron Hanks got the endorsement from the Colorado Republican Party. This is what they said about him. Today, the Colorado Republican Party is proud to announce our endorsement of former state representative Ron Hanks in the Republican primary election for Colorado's 3rd congressional district. Our main criteria for choosing to endorse Ron Hanks is his higher likelihood of defeating the radical Democrat Adam Frisch in the general election. They continue. Ron Hanks not only answered the party's questions, but he also proudly published his answers for the public to see. Ron Hanks has a proven record of defending taxpayers as a conservative warrior. Ron Hanks will secure the border, cut out of control taxes and spending, protect the unborn, defend the Second Amendment, and enthusiastically support our 2024 Republican presidential nominee, President Donald J. Trump. The Republican Party especially appreciates his work on election integrity and border security, as the two go hand in hand. Ron Hanks knows we won't have a country unless we stop the invasion at the southern border and ensure fair elections where only legal paper ballots are cast after a verified ID check. Colorado Republican Party encourages all CD3 and unaffiliated voters to vote for Ron Hanks in the Republican primary on June 25th. Joining the Jeff and Bill Show, Ron Hanks. Thanks so much for being on the program.
Good morning.
Well, good morning, gentlemen. Glad to be with you again. How are you?
We're great. I want to talk about the endorsement. So what does that mean to the voters of Colorado? What does it mean to you to get this endorsement from the Colorado Republican Party?
Well, I'm grateful for it. I haven't been chasing endorsements, but what I did do was fill out the questionnaire from the party. I looked at it as really an assignment that the result is the voters get to see who these candidates are. And I filled it out, and one other guy running is going to fill it out. May have already submitted it, and frankly, all of the candidates had the opportunity to pull this down and say, "Well, I may be petition on and not eligible, but at least the voters will know where I stand on the party questionnaire." So I took it as a duty and a courtesy to the voters of Colorado. So I was glad to do it. Glad to get the endorsement.
Yeah, for me, I'm not so upset about the idea of candidates filling out these questionnaires. I think it's helpful. I've run into these before where I'm not going to fill out the RMGO questionnaire. Okay, well, don't expect them to endorse you, but why not? There was one question in there that I kind of had some concerns about, which was AFP and why singling them out would be an issue. But I think it's helpful for voters to see this and to see where people stand on positions and to be able to, dive into the details. Now, is the state party publishing these results, or is it up to the candidates themselves to publish? Because I think it would be helpful for the state party to list these on their website.
Yeah, I don't have an answer to that, but my intent was always to publish it myself. I mean, this is the utmost transparency, unprecedented transparency. We've never had this before, and I was eager to fill it out, and it's on my website, which I'll plug it, hanks4colorado.com. I'd ask people to go take a look at it. I took a long time filling it out, and there's reason to, because the issues that we face today and the questions on this are important, and voters should know where their candidates stand.
We're talking with Ron Hanks. He's running for Congress in Congressional District 3. This was the district that Lauren Boebert currently represents. She's now going to move after the primary to Congressional District 4, which is the Eastern Plains. Congressional District 3 is primarily the western part of Colorado. Representative Hanks, I want to ask you why you think Lauren Boebert was not performing as well as she could have in this district. This seems to be a fairly conservative district, leans strongly Republican, and yet she won the last race by less than 600 votes. I think it was like barely over 500 votes. What do you think happened there, and why do you think you're going to win when the district seemed to kind of lean against Lauren Boebert?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of judgment of what happened. You listen to people, and some said, well, she could have won CD3 if she stayed in it, but she had personal reasons for moving, and I'm not going to pass judgment on those. And I've been basically focused on keeping the seat conservative. It has nothing to do, from my perspective, of personal issues. This is all right now. We have to get Trump elected, and he will be. I'm convinced of it, in spite of the anomalies we see in our elections. But we have to have a Congress that supports him from day one. If we get another sandbagging speaker like Paul Ryan, we've got some serious problems. We can't afford to waste those first 2 years of the second term. I think Lauren Boebert will win in CD4, and I think, and that'll be a good win for pro-Trump conservative. I think Dave Williams can win in CD5, and I think I can win in CD3, and we start to get a pro-Trump juggernaut in Colorado, which fundamentally changes the complexion of the impression of Colorado. We are not a blue state or a purple state. We are suddenly a very pro-Trump, pro-MAGA, America First agenda, and we're going to need that, because this is a make or break election, in my opinion, gentlemen.
Talking with Ron Hanks, Republican candidate for Congressional District 3 in a competitive primary. Let's talk about Adam Frisch. Is he the juggernaut that the media makes him out to be? He's raised all this money against Lauren Boebert. And is he the right person to represent that district with his beliefs and values?
Well, I don't see him as a juggernaut. I mean, I don't cast any aspersions on the man, but no, he's not the right man to run and represent this district. And I don't think the money that he has is going to sell the Biden agenda. Trying to sell the success of Joe Biden's 4 years, it's going to take more than Adam Frisch has. And so I don't see it as a juggernaut at all. This district leans Republican. I won it when I ran for U.S. Senate in 2022. That's one of the reasons when Representative Boebert shifted to CD4, I started getting phone calls. Would you please enter this race? We need to keep it conservative. And I'm the most conservative guy in this primary run here by far. So if the voters see that, I think we start building a juggernaut of our own.
I've seen reports out there though that Adam Frisch has nearly 1,000 times more money cash on hand to be able to fight this battle. What's your response to that? Is it important to be able to match him toe to toe financially in this upcoming battle?
Well, first thing I'd say is the money will drop in CD3 for that race, and to keep it conservative, there is no doubt in my mind. And no, we don't need to match him dollar for dollar. I mean, the voter sentiment is what we've endured under Joe Biden cannot stand. And I firmly believe this, guys, that there are a lot of independents and a lot of Democrats that they may not say it out loud, but they're going to say, I can't afford another 4 years of Biden, even if I thought he was any good, or I believe in that agenda. I mean, we're reading reports now of groceries costing 40% more now than when Biden first got in. I read a report on Fox Business that it's costing the average American $1,000 more a month. I mean, Democrats are going to vote for Trump and probably just not say it to any of their Democrat friends. And my goal in this is I am conservative, but I am not the caricature that the left-wing media has made me out to be. And I think that will become evident. But I have no intention of rubbing Democrats' nose in the carpet saying, see, we told you so, you know. I mean, they will be on our side because we have to swing this pendulum back to the center and back to the right. So, no, I don't think he's a juggernaut. I think CD3 will remain conservative. I'm the most conservative in the race.
Now, I understand, Ron Hanks, what you're saying about the idea of the money going to fall and it's going to drop. Why isn't it there now? If as you believe that the money is going to push you across the finish line and that so many of the donors are interested in making sure that you hold on to CD3, why isn't the money there, not just for you, but the other primary candidates? Where's the cash?
Well, in my case, I don't like asking for money until I've delivered product that people can see is successful. And in my case, it was going through caucus and assembly. And so my first quarter report is largely self-funded, and people that are close-knit friends and team members from the Senate run. Now, we don't have numbers, and they won't be available until after the primary, but they have gone up substantially, I can tell you that. Some of the other folks have establishment money. I'm running very much as a grassroots candidate. But one of the things you'll hear is when you call people and say, hey, are you looking at this race in Colorado or in the Senate race? One of the best answers I ever got was, as far as he said, sorry, my dance card is full, get a hold of me after the primary. And there's a lot of sentiment about that, is this race in the primary among 6 candidates has to work itself out. And even that doesn't take the money that I think some of the consultant class would try to tell you it's going to. This is still very much a grassroots effort and a grassroots district in the sense of, you can send shiny mailers, but it's talking over the fences and, on the rolling your window down and talking to them on the dirt road, where I think you win a lot of the votes.
Now, Ron Hanks joining Jeff and Bill this morning, candidate for CD3, talking about the recent endorsement of the Colorado GOP, endorsing Hanks for that seat in the primary. And now that is a break with tradition. Congratulations on getting the endorsement. But what is your feeling about the party breaking with tradition and doing endorsements across the field in the primary? Do you agree with it, or does it cause some problems and questions?
It is unconventional, but I think it is a very good idea, and here's why. It's unprecedented transparency, as I've said before. We had to answer questions. See, there always was preferential behavior in the party, and I've seen it where, for instance, a petition-on candidate will avoid the voters at caucus and assembly and kind of disappear. We're seeing that largely with Jeff Hurd in this CD3 race, and then they pop up after the assembly, and they're the de facto party favorite. And this process brings it out into the open, and it also starts breaking down the county party backroom deals. You know, there's no longer is that the standard. And I think that's a big, big deal. And this is an unprecedented election because we know Trump is going to win this. So should not the voters be given the insight of this party as to who's going to help Trump? And in CD3, it is me. CD4, Boebert. CD5, Dave Williams. CD8, Janet Joshi. It helps people to know those four candidates are the America First MAGA people. I support it because, by God, I think this is our last election if we don't get it right. It's not just the most important election, it's our last election if we don't get this right.
Would you still feel the same way if someone other than Dave Williams was in charge of the party and they had endorsed Hurd? Would you still be of the opinion that this is a good, strong move by the party? It increases transparency and everybody should know who the party is backing. Would you hold the same position?
If the questionnaire is in the public arena, yes. I mean, you don't always agree with the decisions of people, but if it's transparent, we can at least decide and discuss what the priorities were. And you can't do that when it's all backroom deals where these, you know, like the CD3 committee making their own little decisions and advocacy efforts, or the state party. It's if the voters can't see it, it's fundamentally a flawed process. So if they can see it and make a different decision, I would still support it.
Now, one of the things you've been talking about, Representative Hanks, is about the idea of supporting Trump, supporting the MAGA agenda, the idea of supporting the party. Will you support the nominee if it is not you in CD3? Because you did not 2 years ago.
We have some good candidates with integrity. I would say Russ Andrews is a good man. He's to the left of me, and I have said to Russ, geez, Russ, are you sure those are the priorities right now? We've developed a good rapport. But he has integrity, even if he's not as conservative as I am. I would support him. Some of the other guys, Lou Webb seems a good man with integrity. There are some that I can't support because they haven't been Republicans except as an opportunity to advance their own political agenda. So when you've got a guy, for example, who voted for Joe Biden in 2020, how do you support that? He's a Johnny-come-lately, he's a Democrat. So is that what we want in our party? And we're going to throw full shoulder to that. But I've called the man a liar to his face, and I'll call him that publicly, and I have. And I can't support a liar. So it all comes down to integrity for me. I mean, I've worked on that my whole life. That's the whole military service ethic. And after 32 years, I'm not going to support liars. I will support men with integrity. There are some in this race.
What I'm hearing is then the answer to my question is no. And if that is true, are you now giving Republicans in CD3 permission to not vote for you and even to vote for Adam Frisch because they may disagree with you on both policy or based on your definition of integrity and ethics. Is that okay now for those Republicans to cross the line and vote for Frisch, since you're not willing as well to hold the same party loyalty?
Well, I think you've stretched what I've said to fit your own narrative.
No.
What I did say is I would support men with integrity. There are some that don't have any.
Okay, now
race.
wait, stop
And
right
I-
there.
and I have
Stop
called
right there.
them- I have
Stop,
called them
stop.
out on
No, Mr. Hanks, stop right there. I addressed that. If the voters inside of CD3 judge you as a person to not have integrity because you are not willing to support the eventual nominee of the party in that race, regardless if you agree or disagree with them, they find that not to be integrity. So now do they have your permission to vote for your opponent, even if it's a Democrat in the race? Because that is your position. That's why you're making the decision. Can they make the same one and you will support it?
They don't need my permission. What kind of a ridiculous statement is that?
I'm just wondering if you're going to support. No, it's not a ridiculous statement. I'm
They
wondering
can,
if
it is a ridiculous statement. They
Ron,
can do
it is
whatever
not.
they want.
Yeah,
That's
exactly,
what
yeah.
voters are
Yes.
allowed to do. Voters make
Exactly.
the selection themselves.
Yep.
I am not going to say you have my permission or you don't have my position. That's ridiculous.
Well, no, but what
So,
I'm saying
no.
is based on your position, you have given them permission because you're not willing to say, you know what, we need to get Republicans elected. Even if I disagree with this Republican and we have issues behind the scenes, I can't vote for the person wearing the same jersey as me. I can't support my team. And so what I'm asking is, because you take that position, is it okay then for the other Republicans in your district to take that position, knowing that that would be possibly a vote for Frisch and not getting you elected? That's okay with you? Yes or no?
When you have a guy that is riding for the brand who is actually a cattle rustler, do you support him? If you have a guy in the trenches with you who is an agent of the enemy forces, do you give him your approval? It's ridiculous.
When you need control of the House or the Senate, does it matter? Or is it just based on the R or the D after the name as far as who gets to vote for speaker and who gets to control the agenda? Which matters more?
Do you have control if it is an agent of the opposition, as in, I mean, that's part of the problem we have in this party, isn't it? It is not conservative enough. We do not
unless you have enough R's, you don't get control of anything, though. That's the issue. It's still a numbers game. The Democrats disagreed with Joe Manchin being an actual Democrat, but they kept him under the umbrella because he gave them the vote that gave them control. That's the issue, and that's the game you're playing. And I just hear from you, and I appreciate it, that you're not willing to play that game, and that's good. But then don't necessarily complain to any Republican voter who makes the same decision that you are. Don't complain if that costs you the election. That's basically it. That's all the question I had. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. Thank you.
I don't think you'll hear me complaining about anything. I am not going to tell the voters they are compelled to do anything. That's why they're voters. That's why they're engaged in this. They are making their decisions. I am simply offering myself up as a candidate and the most conservative candidate in this race. And I am the one. Go ahead, please.
And one that won't support all the Republican nominees. That's fair. That is your choice. But it is also the voters should be allowed to know that as well. And I appreciate you addressing that.
Talking with Ron Hanks, he's running for Congressional District 3 in the Republican primary. He got the endorsement from the Colorado Republican Party. Wanted to look at some of the endorsements that Jeff Hurd got. Hank Brown, Scott McInnes, Scott Tipton, Bill Owens, Jane Norton, Pete Coors. It seems to me like what those Republicans would like is to return to the Scott Tipton days. Now, as somebody who hosted the Western Conservative Summit and invited Scott Tipton every year, he never came. And I think it's a fair critique to look at Scott Tipton's years and go, well, I didn't hear much from him. There's a benefit and a downside to that, right? The benefit is I didn't hear much from him. He wasn't maybe in the news for personal issues like somebody else might be, but I also don't really know what he did while he was there. He just was kind of a congressman. It seems like they believe that the way to secure that district moving forward is to go back to those years of just kind of, we may not hear from him a lot. He's not going to be in the news, but at least it's a solid Republican district now. What's your response to those types of Republicans that have endorsed Jeff Hurd that want to return to the Scott Tipton era?
I don't think that's what the times are calling for. I mean, this Biden, I call it a regime. Let's just call it the Biden regime, because I don't believe it was honestly elected in 2020. They have left us in an unprecedented ditch. And going back to the establishment, Paul Ryan, Mitt Romney mindset, it might seem nostalgically wonderful, but it is not the time to be reaching across the aisle and finding this grandiose bipartisan dealings. We have to win this, and for God and country, we maintain our conservative values. We shrink the size of government. We get rid of this deep state. And tell me what Scott Tipton did in that effort. I mean, nothing against Scott Tipton or any of these people, but they're not conservative. They have a different plan for somehow almost being the loyal opposition and not being the party in charge with an agenda that the people want. I mean, I think the people want our border closed and to have cheaper energy and to bring American manufacturing back and to secure our ag and our food supply and our water rights. I mean, those are the issues. Auditing the Federal Reserve. I think we're losing money out of our retirements now. Reaching across the aisle and being bipartisan with Nancy Pelosi has done nothing but injure us. And it's time to stop that. And I think people in CD3, the voters of CD3, know this. And frankly, like I said earlier, I think the Democrats and independents are ready for this pendulum to swing, because we can't afford this big government that spends money by the trillions and we don't even know what it's doing with it.
Talking with Ron Hanks, he's a candidate for Congressional District 3. Ron, I think this is just a two-horse race at this point. I think it's you and Jeff Hurd. You talked about, would you support somebody with integrity? You'd look at that. Do you believe Jeff Hurd has integrity? Would you support him if he got the nominee and work to get him elected?
I appreciate that question, because I'd like to say yes, and yet the man went to the CD3 assembly in Pueblo in April, not as a candidate, but to electioneer in the audience to try to get people to vote against me or whatever candidate. And when the party came up to him and said, hey, you can't do this, you either have to leave or you have to be nominated and go through the assembly process, Jeff Hurd ran off like a scalded dog. And so that's not integrity to me. I mean, that's a problem. And, it just, the guy is hiding like Biden hid. I think he's waiting for his next position statement from all those establishment people you referenced earlier. And fundamentally, it's a bad working model for a representative. A representative, the people ought to know where he stands. And of course, he needs to know where he stands and hold those positions. That's who I am. And I've demonstrated that in my time in the State House.
Was Jeff Hurd challenging? I don't know this question. I'm just asking. Was Jeff Hurd challenging Lauren Boebert before she moved? Was he going to do a primary challenge against her?
Yes, he was the I'm not Boebert candidate. Well, now that Lauren Boebert is over in CD4 and likely to win it, that seems like kind of a stale argument. I've laughed at the left-wing media. I shouldn't read it maybe, but they called Jeff Hurd a peanut butter and jelly sandwich without the peanut butter and jelly. And, it's true. I saw him do a video on the border crisis. It looked like a hostage doing a proof of life video that, you're looking left, looking right to see if you're about to get beat or shot. I mean, it's ridiculous. That, if there's ever a time to be passionate about the problems this country has, it's right now. I mean, how many millions of border invaders do we have? How many of them are affiliated with terrorist groups? How many children are lost into sex trafficking and the human trafficking? I mean, if we're not passionate about this, and it looks like you're doing a video because your campaign consultant told you to do a video. I got a bit of concern about that as a representative candidate.
Now, Ron Hanks joining us, a congressional candidate for CD3, after Lauren Boebert moved to 4 with the Jeff and Bill show. Earlier, we were talking about integrity, and one of the reasons that the Colorado GOP endorsed you in the primary is specifically election integrity. In Congressional District 3, what percentage of the voters do you believe hold your view that the 2020 election was fraudulent?
I can't put a percentage on it because I think that in the travels, a good high number of it is, but what's the cross section we're seeing? You know, I mean, what we're seeing is grassroots folks right now. I can tell you that the Rasmussen polls will say a majority of Americans believe we have election problems here. And that is, it's taken a while to get there, longer than I would have liked, but it's a majority of Americans. I can't break it down in CD3, but I'll tell you, people know my positions because of my record and my efforts, and they'll come up and say, we agree with you. But that's not a scientific poll, so I can't answer the question. I'll go with Rasmussen saying it's a majority in the U.S.
Yeah, well, Rasmussen only had one at one poll, I believe, that showed that it was the majority. And even then, a majority having questions doesn't still come back to the question I had about your belief that it was stolen. Having questions about the election doesn't mean the election is stolen. And what percentage of those voters, is it over 50 or under 50 of the total voting population in CD3 that believes, as you do, the 2020 election was stolen? What's your best guess at this time?
I would say it's over 50. That would be a best guess based off of the Rasmussen poll that we both just referenced. If it's a nationwide poll, I would say CD3 certainly falls within that, and being a conservative district as it is, it's probably a little larger than that.
Okay, let's walk through that a second, because the polls normally say right around 60% of registered Republicans believe the election in 2020 was stolen. 60%. That number is far, far fewer on the Democrat side of the aisle. Explain to me how, if 60% of the Republican voters, not total voters in the district, agree with you, how does that get you elected? Isn't that an Achilles heel Adam Frisch can use against you to keep you out of this seat? Isn't that your biggest weakness in this race?
I don't think truth and facts are a weakness. Let me just say this. Both sides in an election have to believe that they won or lost based on the merits or the candidates. In 2016, the esteemed Vice President Kamala Harris had grave concerns, and even in a Senate hearing, made a point that she watched people hacking Dominion machines, in this case, in a matter of under a minute. So she had problems. That's the Democrat side in 2016. Republicans and others, I think this was bipartisan in 2020, certainly saw the anomalies. So I don't think that's a failing issue to say all sides of this want the truth. I don't want election integrity for Republicans. I want election integrity for Americans, because if we don't, we're going to start numbering our civil wars. The one over slavery was Civil War I, and the one we have over the division of this nation will be Civil War II, which I firmly believe Joe Biden has set us up for, along with the 9/11 events with these border invaders that are part of Hamas and Hezbollah and Islamic Jihad and special forces of the Communist People's Liberation Army.
I appreciate that. I appreciate where you're going with it, but the issue is that no one's been able to prove the election fraud. Fox News couldn't do it. Nobody's been able to walk into court proving it. And if the larger percentage of the voters don't share your belief I submit it's going to be difficult to convince them to send you to Congress to make rules about their life, knowing that you have come to a conclusion they don't agree with. They will question your ability to come to conclusions on the important things that impact on your life. So I think this is a huge
Ron Hanks,
Achilles heel for
we've
him.
got about a minute left. I'll give you the final word.
Yeah, I don't. I'm sorry. Sometimes I have trouble figuring out who's talking to me between you, Jeff and Bill. But I think that was Bill. Bill, I fundamentally disagree with your perspective, but I appreciate you sharing it with me. I think election integrity is important to everybody, and I will fight it not as a conservative Republican, but as an American that wants elections that we can all stand behind. And regroup if you lose and build a better platform, get better candidates. In this race for CD3, I am the most conservative. We have people that are pretending to be conservative that voted for Joe Biden. It's a lie. I would ask the voters to discern. Look at my questionnaire from the Colorado GOP. It's on my website, hanksforcolorado.com. The answers are detailed. It's not just yes, no. I took this thing, blew it apart, extended my answers out beyond what the form had. It's worth looking at. I would implore the voters, take a look at these at candidates, and I ask for your vote humbly on the 25th of June.
Ron Hanks, Congressional District 3 Republican candidate. His website, hanksforcolorado.com, endorsed earlier this week by the Colorado Republican Party. Ron, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show. I appreciate it. And thanks for answering the tough questions.
Thank you, gentlemen, both very much. I enjoy it. I'll look forward to coming back.
Hope to have you back soon.
I do that appreciate about him. I run into some candidates who really don't like it, and they get frustrated when we ask them tough questions. Other ones, like Ron, are willing to jump in and go, let's go, buddy.
I love his willingness to engage. I value that so much. He and I disagree, but I value his willingness to engage, and I appreciate his time.
And he
Thank
doesn't
you so
get
much.
offended by tough questions, which I appreciate. All right, I want to talk to you about Joyce and Brent Tolliver at Roll 'em Out Shelves. They're coming out to our house to install Roll 'em Out Shelves, but they've already visited us to get all the measurements. These are wonderful people. It's like having your mom and brother over. They share all of our same values. We talked about faith. We talked about family. We talked about our love of this country. Then we got to work. They measured all the nooks and crannies, got all the details right, asked all the right questions. And let me tell you, these drawers are built differently. I have some builder grade drawers in my house. These are a total another level. This is like the Ferrari level of shelves, okay? And it doesn't break the bank. For less than $1,000, you can embark on your very own home makeover journey with Roll 'em Out Shelves. And let me assure you, these shelves are built to last, crafted with sturdy Baltic birch, built right here in Colorado and backed by a lifetime guarantee. Give them a call today, 303-475-9601. That's 303-475-9601, or visit rollemoutshelves.com. That's rollemoutshelves.com. We'll continue. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Berlin, I'm Trent Murray, and here are the top stories we're following. A man that was reported missing 26 years ago has been found alive in an underground cellar. Algerian man Omar bin Omran first went missing during his country's civil war in the early 1990s. His 65-year-old neighbour has been arrested, accused of keeping Omran as a prisoner in a basement for almost 30 years. Donald Trump will be headlining the National Rifle Association's annual meeting this weekend in Texas. It's the 9th time the former president has addressed the gun rights group. Tony Waterman has the details.
Some 75,000 people from across the country are expected to attend this weekend's convention. Former President Donald Trump will give a speech on Saturday afternoon and is expected to pledge to protect gun access in America. But just 2 days later, a new federal regulation is set to close a loophole that had allowed unlicensed dealers to sell firearms without a background check at gun shows and online. This will also be the first time in decades that Wayne LaPierre isn't at the helm of the NRA. The longtime CEO stepped down earlier this year and was found liable of misspending millions of NRA funds.
And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Trent Murray in Berlin on Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Fantastic discussion with Representative Ron Hanks, State Representative Ron Hanks. He's running for Congressional District 3. Give us a text here. Do you think he can win against Adam Frisch and the Democrat money juggernaut? They want to flip that seat.
Question.
They think they can't. Text us, please. I want to talk to you about our friends Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law. I've known Dan for many years. He's with us on faith. He's with us on family. He's with us and his love for America. He's the son of a police officer. He's also a former seminarian, and Dan has dedicated 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. It's a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call, 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. We'll get to your calls and texts next. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
absolutely fire show on the Jeff and Bill Show today. Lauren Boebert and Hank joining us. If you missed any of it, go to 710KNUS. You can download the podcast there. Hey, this week I'm going to be working out, getting a lot of work done on the ranch. UltraCur is what allows me to work without that soreness coming in. It's a patented non-prescription natural capsule that works fast. Experience UltraCur for free. Go to any Denver Metro natural grocers and ask for the health coach or the vitamin manager for your free 3-day trial of UltraCur. You want to try curcumin? A lot of those other substances out there, or those products, require you to pay. They'll give you a free 3-day trial. Just go to the Denver Metro Natural Grocers and ask for the health coach or the vitamin manager and grab your free 3-day trial of UltraCur. No strings attached. If you're wondering about the research, get the lowdown at getultranow.com. That's getultranow.com.
Oh, my friend, I was just using that yesterday. I was out doing extra work. I was doing things in the yard. Back was sore. Popped it. Felt better. Works.
There you go.
Man. Yeah. It's really good.
It's gentle on your stomach.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
That matters to me.
Yes, it does.
Well, when we come back on Monday, we're going to have the sheriff from Cheyenne that has those billboards up recruiting Denver police up to Wyoming, where they're going to have a much better career than getting sued into the ground for, not checking on homeless people. Right. So, we'll have him. He'll be joining us Monday. It'll be a great show.
Oh, it's going to be an amazing show. Also, RFK Jr. is going to be in town. What did he say? Did you hear anything that you liked? We may have some people that are going to be there. And we're still working on talking to them. Don't know how it's going to work out.
We'll see. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. Have a fantastic weekend.